All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second half of week 5 of the Pro Chess League.
My name is Dejan Boshkov, and together with David Perez, we're going to host this round number 5. David, which are the interesting matches that we have today?
Well, one of the big matches we'll be watching will be between the Webster Windmills, which is sort of a team made up of the Webster College in St. Louis, their players, and the Ljubljana Direwolves, also known as the Ninja Turtles.
Excellent. And we also have the San Jose Hackers who are playing the Budapest Gambit. We
Mm-hmm.
have in the team of San Jose Hackers Shakriyar Mamedyarov, the top seed player, but we also have Daniel Naroditsky and we have Jan Christian Kirilla. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name. Probably you can help me with that one. Plus Ivan K. While the Hungarian team is led by Oliver Mihok, who recently became a grandmaster. There are also a couple of IMs and an FM. Quite a tough squad to watch out for.
Yeah. Another matchup that we'll be watching will be the San Diego Surfers against the Hamburg Swashbucklers. The Surfers are the last 4-0 team in the Pro Chess League. The last perfect team after 4 weeks of play.
Wow. They were quite quiet, but now they are up for big deeds. Obviously, young team, very perspective, strong players. Georg Meier is their top seed, as far as I know.
For the Surfers, it's actually, and I'm showing the pictures now to everybody, it's Alexei Dreyev on board 1, their free agent, and then local player Grandmaster Melik Kachin on board 2. Last week, Dreyev was not available, and it was Kachin who played board 1 and scored 3.5 out of 4 for them as they won that match.
Melik is a very strong blitz player. He's our own grandmaster here on chess.com. You guys probably know him. He did a lot of videos for us. If you missed
Yeah.
those, don't miss them again. Just have a look at them. And he's a former coach of the one of the leading chess players in the world, Aronian.
Yeah. So we'll be catching up with the Surfers match later once it has started for sure. But right now, the first match underway is the San Jose Hackers against the Budapest. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Gambit. So here on screen, we're going to have a game where Shakriyar Mamedyarov is playing black. And I can show you his player card real quick with an ELO rating of 2761. He is one of the top players in the world and has been for many years. And in addition to being a top 10 player in the world, he's also number 4 in the world in rapid chess. So
Yes.
pretty important for this tournament.
Rightly so. Also a very aggressive player, and he is famous for his white color. Not only for the white color, but the white color he does best. And even at the top tournaments, people are having huge problems actually stopping him from his fierce attacks.
Mm-hmm. So this game, at least, he's starting out with black, and he's playing a Grunfeld against Andras Oroz. Or Orosh? I don't know.
Not sure how to pronounce his name in any case. He played his beloved Greenfield defense,
Mm-hmm.
and he is obviously going to start trading now on c4, I guess. And after that, he would like to go for the pawn on e2 and eventually in an endgame.
Yeah.
Or he can go for after some trades for e5 in the future as well. So this bishop on h4 might get excluded from the game if white is not careful enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mamedyarov is thinking surprisingly long on an early move. I would think that this would be a position that he knows.
Most likely he knows, but the thing is, he is not sure how much he would like to show from his preparation
Aha.
in a blitz game.
Uh-huh.
You never know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the stakes are getting a little bit higher for the Hackers. At first, they were considered one of the strongest teams, which makes sense with Mamedyarov playing for them. Um, but they've lost 2 matches now, so they really need to win to get into the playoffs.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they will have very, very good chances of winning this one.
Hmm.
But Mamedyarov obviously has to show a very, very good game today. He's the leader of the team, so people are expecting points from him.
Yeah.
And he will be playing for a win every single game today, obviously. By the way, David, it seems like you should refresh your position because on my screen
That's the
they're up
best
to move number
explanation,
11.
huh?
They're up to move number 11, and Mamedyarov didn't spend more than 1.5 minutes, while his
Yep.
opponent has spent 5 already.
I should have guessed
And
that that was the more likely thing was a bug rather than Mamedyarov thinking for 2 minutes on this move. Okay, I'm going to quickly click through the moves, everybody, so you can see what happened. He played bishop g7, which seemed like the very likely move, and then quickly pawns, knight c6, rook c1, bishop e6. So if black could play e5, they'd be very happy, but they couldn't because of the bishop on the diagonal of the queen. Castling, and white plays very aggressive here with this move c5. What do you think of that, Dejan?
I think it's a good thing to do. So otherwise, like I told you, I had this feeling that black wanted to capture on c4 many, many times, then put the queen on d5 and go for e5, free himself, and eventually go for a very good, nice endgame.
Yeah, so like for example, if white played bishop e2, black would play something like this, just trade these all off, queen d5. Now you can play, you know, queen c2 or rook c1 or whatever you play. Black wants to get this kind of position here. And this would not be very good for white because of the black queenside majority.
Right. Queenside majority just begs for trading queens and trading stuff. The more pieces black is going to trade, the easier it will be for him to get the advantage. Ideally, he wants to play pawn ending with 2 versus 1, and then he wants to do the famous fox in the chicken coop thing, very nicely described by Jeremy Suman in his books. So yeah,
Hey
I
Dayon,
guess
when I'm in analysis mode, how do I go back to the live position?
there is a button which says just return to the game, restore current
I
position.
found it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So c5 was played, probably a good idea. That means black's plan is still to play e5, I believe, but it's going to take longer for black to play that move.
Well, the other thing that he can do, he can try actually to open up the position on the queen side with a move like b6, trade that pawn. Eventually, if white trades himself on b6, he wants to take back and then double his rooks on the a file and take the pawn on e2. It's somehow easier to attack this pawn than the one on b6 because black has a bishop on f5 and this bishop is defending the b1 square. So the b file, it's much more difficult for white to seize, while the a file, it's very, very easy for black to do, to take it and to attack on it.
Yeah. So obviously, people in this position here, you know, for black to play this b6 plan of Dayan's, they would have to defend the knight first, and actually Shakriyar played queen d7 here. So b6 is an idea as well. After bishop e2, he put the bishop on f5. Like Dejan said, it makes sense to move the bishop so it controls b1 because that's really the file white would like to use for his rooks. And now black seems to be able to play either e5 or b6, either one could be his plan. But when he plays f6 on move 14, that seems to tell us which one he's going to actually do, right?
Well, not exactly, because he can still go for g5 and put the bishop back on g6. Bishop back on g6. This is kind of a tricky move. So you see, Shakriyar is not yet showing his cards, and this is giving quite a good result because his opponent is thinking quite a lot, and he got a hefty full minutes advantage on the clock. 4.5, 5. So this is huge for this live control.
And he hasn't yet done anything, so white, when black does play b6 or e5, white's still going to have to figure out what to do about it with less time on their clock.
Exactly, yes. It's a sign of a great player. So he did the e5, the one that you suggested.
Yeah.
That you
I felt that once he played the move f6, it looked like he was going to play on the king side rather than b6.
Right.
Because otherwise f6 is kind of a weird move.
Yes, and he's getting a very strong center, you see it.
Interesting, this trade-off.
For white?
I guess white was afraid of black playing e4 and then f5. but I don't know if I would be afraid of that. Well, let's see what his follow-up is here.
Maybe he wants to do something aggressive like knight g5,
Mm-hmm.
followed by knight e4, followed by knight e6. This sounds like an interesting idea to me. Knight g5, give me the bishop. If the bishop drops back to g8, now knight e4, and then knight e6, putting the knight in a good position, and eventually attacking the pawn on d5 with bishop f3.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like an interesting plan to me. Also, knight g5 is threatening to win a pawn, knight f7, queen d5, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe this is very interesting idea, but the fact that he's thinking again is not quite a nice one for the Hungarian team.
To me, Dejan, this kind of move, h3, is always a bad sign. It's, I don't know, just lacking in initiative.
Well, he can eventually use the g4 square, so after he jumps knight g5, bishop g4 is coming next. There is an idea behind this move. So not necessarily a bad move, but the way that he is doing the moves is quite timid. I mean, the time that he is spending is quite a lot, and that's one thing which is not good for him.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this move, rook d8, helps black a lot more than h3 does, because I was looking at lots of variations where white tries bishop c4 or, e4 and going after this d5 pawn. And I think this is one of the points that black really needs to overprotect. So a move like rook d8 seems really useful to me. But bishop h4 deals with that a little bit, huh? Interesting. Didn't see that coming.
Maybe he just wanted to lure the bishop on h4 and to win some extra time. I'm not sure, but Shakriyar is doing this quite often. And these little tricks, you see, it's just won him another half a minute on the opponent's clock. And this time is going to be very, very important, very, very soon. So typically what he would do is he's going to press the opponent on time, and after that he's going to break open the position. d4 is an excellent idea, I think, when the two bishops come into life.
Yeah. I mean, I think that d4, white could have forced it with bishop c4 last move if they wanted to. So Mamedyarov was definitely prepared to play d4 here. If bishop c4, white could have traded one bishop off after d4, trade on f7. But rook b1, d4, and now white plays another move that kind of surprises me, Dejan, bishop to b5.
What else can he do?
I'm not sure, but the move surprises me. I didn't expect him to move his bishop towards the queen side. I mean, I don't think he wants to take on c6. He might play bishop back to e2 here to defend his knight.
He wants to take on d4, but bishop d5 is preventing him from this. In fact, now black is threatening to take on f3 with the rook, and then to checkmate queen h3 and so on and so forth. And this is a very, very unpleasant moment for white. I think that he's on the verge of the defeat at the moment.
Yeah. So bishop b5, it's in the wrong direction, right? I mean, it's leaving this area weaker.
Kind of, yeah, sort of. But at the same time, he needed somehow to deal with the possible d3 moves and e4, d3 stuff. And he needed somehow to get counterplay. But look at his pieces. Somehow they're not very well coordinated. The bishop on h4, the knight on f3, and the other one on b5. Now he came back on e2.
I got that move right.
Right. But now there are ideas like d3 followed by e4 all the time. He has to be careful about those forks.
Yeah.
So,
does that win already?
Not really. There is queen d3 on an e4. He will take with queen d5.
Queen d5.
But,
yeah.
But bishop e4 is an idea first, and then maybe d3, and after bishop takes d3 to take on f3. This is one idea. I'm not sure if it is working, but it is.
To play here, threatening the rook. After the rook moves, play d3, bishop d3, and take.
And take, yes. Deflect the
bishop.
Well, he wants to take on f3 with the rook, though, not with the bishop.
Not with the bishop. He wants to keep this piece.
Right.
Yeah. The problem is, though, like if we play d3, bishop d3, and rook takes, then white can get rid of the bishop anyway on e4 instead of taking the rook.
Right. While Shakriyar is thinking, I just want to remind to everyone to be as active as possible because we are still giving our 1 month free membership, premium membership to diamond membership, excuse me, to those of you who are very, very active here in the chat and they are not obviously diamond members already, but who are very, very active and who are asking their questions and who are participating into the show. We'll be very grateful to hear your questions.
Yeah. Well, Shakriyar did play your move, bishop to e4. We'll see if he also follows up with d3 or not. Nope, he just repeats. Oh, he's just using up the guy's time, like you said. Oh, evil.
Very unpleasant guy, right?
That's not fair. It's fair, guys. It's fair.
And now he will do something like queen f7, right? Give me that pawn on e2, moves away from the possible pin on the file, and prepares d3, e4 ideas, so that the queen is not hanging there. One idea.
And it threatens bishop a2.
Yes. But at the same time, maybe he wants to give the rook in front so that he can sacrifice it. So I'm not sure about the move queen f7.
I keep thinking that he just wants to trade on f3 and sacrifice an exchange there, and then follow up with queen takes h3.
That's what that was the idea that I actually was thinking about. To then g5 and move away the bishop. And now there are two ideas. One is g4, which is very aggressive, and the other one is rook d8. So the bishop is no longer controlling that square. You get extra support of the bishop on d5, and then you can do the ideas that we were talking about: bishop e4, d3, etc. And you have this very powerful defender.
But
or also d3 and e4.
What I concluded though is that this exchange stack, after you make the exchange stack, you've traded off your rook on the f file and your really good light squared bishop, and you're not left with the best pieces for continuing the attack. So, but maybe actually I'm seeing something now, Dejan. Let's see if he's already moved or not. No, he hasn't. He played king h7. Okay, but let me just show my idea for a second. After rook b to b1, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, rook takes f3, pawn takes f3, queen takes h3, bishop g3, because the bishop's otherwise kind of trapped. And here I'm just realizing that you can take on e3 with the d pawn. And it doesn't work. After queen e3, knight d4. My whole point was put this knight in the center, but then there's rook takes d4. Okay, so he was right not to go for that.
And you have to be patient, David.
He just plays h6, bishop to g3, and plays king h7. Just letting white run down his clock pretty much. And white trades on d4, and again it's white's turn. Whew.
And he's down to 3 minutes, almost. And he still has to think about those sacrifices on f3, those d3 moves, and plus some rook e2 ideas followed by captures on f3.
Yeah, if I'm going to make a move that's pointless for white just to show the idea. If black plays rook takes e2, then he can actually keep his bishop and sack two exchanges like this, rook e2 and rook f3. And then, follow up with an attack against white's king, queen h3, queen f5. I mean, I don't think it's good enough, but it's an idea. Okay, white's trying to get rid of this bishop now. Knight h4, bishop e4, bishop d3. Well, this makes sense by white. I like what he did, actually, Dejan.
You like it?
I like it because black's light squared bishop was just such a problem. And I think trading it off is going to help white to defend here.
But aren't you a little bit afraid that you're left only with this knight on h4, which is not your optimal piece, and your bishop on g3, which might also not be your optimal piece?
Yeah, I'm left with not optimal pieces, but I feel like I'm taking away one of the tools that black has for killing me, which is that light squared bishop. And yeah, he'll trade on e4 and then play back knight to f3. I don't know why he spent a minute or two on this. I don't think there was anything else to do.
I think he's calculating knight g6 now, which is an interesting idea. But he can also do bishop d6 first and then knight g6. So
What?
he did it.
What?
He did it.
What's interesting about this, Dejan?
Queen d3 after that,
And then
pin.
queen f5.
Then queen f5. And now, before he goes f3, he can do bishop d6, followed by g4, and then f3. But I think he should have done it the other way around, because now when he goes bishop d6, there would be bishop e7.
Mm-hmm.
So he did this, and now rook e1
Well,
is
black
the
can
move
always
which
play rook
is...
to e1 in this kind of position, right? To
Yeah, he
trade
can
things
always
off.
trade rooks.
That's
Yeah.
pretty safe. And he
So
does
he
it.
did it. Yeah.
So white just kind of self-destructed. I mean, Mamedyarov didn't even have to even threaten a winning plan, much less come up with a winning plan, right? He just sat there till white panicked and sacked a piece.
This is what the good players do. The great players do.
they just let you lose all by yourself?
Of course, yes. They just give it the rope and you do what you're supposed to do.
So this move is pretty brutal, actually, this knight e5. If white takes it, they pretty much lose instantly to bishop e5 check. The best move now is rook g3, just losing the rook. But it's because g3, there's rook f2 mate. So knight e5, he's going to have to retreat his rook somewhere.
Yeah, if he takes, he's getting checkmated. And if he retreats, d3, d2, d1, queen. I think he's going to resign now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's thinking.
Considering his resignation. Nope, rook to d2. So now I would think probably just rook c8 from black, but that might be completely not what he's looking for. I'm not seeing how to queen the pawn just yet. Maybe he can play d3 here with the idea of rook to e2. Maybe d3 can be played.
Oh, he can go pawn grabbing, rook c8, take that pawn on c5 or rook c1.
Mm-hmm. Either one seems fine.
He can go for the enemy king, or he can go for h5 and h4, which is also very nasty. Well, he has a ton of winning moves.
So little tip for everybody, you can now see next to the players, and it looks like these are correct, little icons for their teams. This one, if you put your mouse over it, it says Budapest Gambit. If we put our mouse over this little hooded guy with a laptop, it says San Jose Hackers. This guy definitely looks like he's doing something bad on his computer. This guy all in black.
Yeah, and his computer is also kind of scary, so I guess that he's a hacker for sure. He might be Mamedyarov himself.
Oh yeah, good point from Marignon that this game is basically finished. Mamedyarov is sure to win, so perhaps we should check out one of the other games going on right now. And
yeah, let's go to Fitness Ben versus Daniel Naroditsky. This looks like a nice positional game at the moment.
Okay. All right, so this is board 2, Daniel Naroditsky, board 2 for the Hackers, playing black. Wait, the Hackers have black on boards 1 and 2? Okay. Playing black against Bensis Sabo.
Yep, and I think that he's going to crush him right now. He's attacking. Whenever you have opposite colored bishops, attack is the keyword, initiative is the keyword. It was quite unfortunate for him that he couldn't take here with a rook on g6 because of the move e4, but still quite unpleasant for white.
Yeah.
How's he going to defend us?
The key to this kind of position is to keep your bishop, your opposite colored bishop active. So allowing white to play e4 is really, really bad for black, and he can't allow that. So he keeps the rook here for now. Materials equal. So this is just a light squared bishop exploration here. To me, it would make sense now to play the move queen to e4.
To make sure they're never going to put that pawn up, yeah?
Exactly. So he can't move that pawn, and then I can move my rook off of e6 at some point, right? Try to go, I don't know, rook f6 to f5 to somewhere. Hopefully I'll come up with something at some point, maybe f6 and rook g5.
Yep. This is exactly what you're going to do. You can do it probably even faster with a move like g5, then rook h6, rook h4, and rook g4, a deal like that.
This is another way to do it, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, eventually this g2 pawn is a good target. We can also attack e3 since white's bishop can't defend it at the moment. And yeah, white also has to watch out for a move like queen a2 at some point. I mean, queen c2 to a2 at some point.
Right. And just look at this bishop on b4, how helpless it is.
It's really bad.
It's pretending
really
that
bad.
it is doing something, though, right?
I mean, honestly, it when you realize how immobile the bishop on b4 is, the pawn on c3 even looks like a pretty good target to me. Because like I can attack it as black and then play b6 a5 at some point, right? That's kind of unstoppable.
People are asking why isn't he playing the move queen b8? Well,
he will.
He's not really threatening to take the pawn on a7 because of the checkmate on g2. So this is just one of those
back
moves,
and forth.
Yeah, which is trying to gain time, but he did it after 2 or 3 minutes of thought.
Yeah.
And now he's very low on time.
Yeah, the answer to why not queen b8 is because next move he just has to play queen g3. This doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, because if he does, for example, after king h7, now rook e2, there will be queen b1 check coming, followed by rook f6. And that should be checkmate attack, I believe. Followed by queen f1 or queen back to e4. When the king comes out, it's going to be checkmate for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, this king will not survive long in the wild here.
I wonder what is Daniel thinking about? Why can't he just go back with a rook on e8?
He could go rook e8 or king h7, that's why. It doesn't matter too much.
King h7 is so obvious. I mean, he wants to have the rook active, doesn't he?
Yeah. So I think one thing here is that g5 might not quite work now because after rook g6... No, this will still win for black. Even after all these checks, white, you know, g3 allows queen g2 and rook e2 allows rook g2. This should be indefensible. So he could play g5, your move here, if he wants to. Maybe that's why he preferred king h7 to rook to e8, was because he wants to activate his rook.
Yes, and I think he should play g5. Without too much hesitation, he did it.
He did it with just a little hesitation. Someone's asking what happens with the teams that lose. Well, they play again next week. But after week 7, they may not play anymore because after week 7, we'll have playoffs. So those teams that haven't won enough matches after 7 weeks, their seasons will come to an end. Then they'll lose all their fans, and their fans will join the bandwagons of the teams that have won.
No, I don't think that they are going to lose their fans. Maybe some of them.
Yeah.
But, well, you can still support them, even though they are not playing. Probably, hopefully, next year we are going to have something similar. We are going to have the Chess Pro League again. That would be great if this is just the beginning of something that big and that great.
Oh.
And we're going to see the same players and some bigger names. Still, we have more than 100 grandmasters competing here, but it wouldn't be bad to have some extras.
Mm-hmm. So this Hungarian IM just played a really good defensive resource, Dejan. When he plays rook to f1, he's leaving the e3 pawn hanging, but his idea is that if this trade happens with the queens coming off, he'll try and grab the pawn on f7 and try to hold this endgame here, which seems plausible. I mean, black's still better, but he might have drawing chances there. And his other idea was that after rook f1, if black defends the f pawn like he did with f6, he comes back to e1, defending e3 again. But now the rook on e6 has lost much of its scope.
Yeah, but it can go back to e8 and to h8 and still to h4. It's not that easy to defend.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and it looks like he's rerouting it now. Here it comes.
He should be routing it if he wants to do something in this position.
I think now he might be able to route it through e4 if he plays the move queen d3.
Oh no, he's for another plan, I guess, with b5 and rook e6, trying to reach this pawn on e2. Or b5, a5, and b4, trying to make something out of his majority. So he's playing on both flanks.
And now he's playing f5. This is kind of weird.
5 is a weird move to me, yes. But okay, he would be pushing the pawns on the queen side, b5, b4, and whatever happens, happens. That's it.
So you're saying he's trying to make his c pawn into a passed pawn?
Mm-hmm. And he will succeed in doing so because b4 is still possible here, followed by c3.
Right.
But also he wants to play rook a6 and rook on the second rank after that, or even on the first rank sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think White's improved his bishop, even though it looks like the picture of a bad piece. I feel like the bishop has been improved, and I think that Sabo is playing incredible defense, actually, because he avoided the obvious rook plan to the g file, and he fixed his bishop on b4 before Naroditsky could get it stuck, and win like the c pawn or something.
And now the bishop is doing something, even though it looks terrible, it is doing something. And he's rook f2, he wants to set his queen 3. So
Naroditsky is down to 17 seconds now. He's doing a quick repetition to try and gain a second, but it doesn't seem like he's confident how to make progress here.
He also has to watch out for the move e4 if he moves away the queen.
That's why he's not playing queen c2 there, people, I think, because like queen c2 looks very strong at first, but on queen c2 e4. So okay, so he plays rook b6, trying to play b4 without sacrificing a pawn. Bishop d2 prevents it, and repetition, and now they go to the queen trade.
That's a very wise decision in the time trouble, because it would be much easier for black to give moves than for white.
Okay. Also,
and he's not going to get checkmated.
Also, he's failed to find a way to win the middle game for many, many moves and used all his time trying to and couldn't find it. So now he'll kind of give up on that and try something else.
Yep, he will go g5, then he will go rook a6 and b4, or rook c6 and b4, depending on the circumstances. But he would do this. He would do something on the queen side. Mm-hmm. Now b4 is a good move because c3 is coming with the tempo. He missed it. Now he will do it. b4. No, he doesn't. No,
he's not doing it. I was surprised that white moved the bishop off of e1, because as long as the bishop's on e1, he's got b4 covered, right?
Yeah, he should keep it there. Yeah. Now, if e4 was a positional threat, that's why bishop e4 is being played.
What I would try and do is bring the black king to e4, but he's either doing something else or moving back and forth for now.
He wants to play rook e4 and rook g4.
Now he's going to g4. Oh, and white's pre-moving. Oh, G3. White's pre-moving, and now he has to do this. Which is not so bad. But now I think his plan is rook e8 to h8. Keep that tension and try to threaten the rook coming in.
And open the position in a good moment, so he decided this is a good moment.
What? Why? I don't understand at all, Dejan. What's good about this moment? He didn't take back with the h-pawn. It must have been really good. But I don't know why. This is a huge concession for white.
Rook g1 now.
Oof. Oh, come on. Go to g1. That's like... That feels like checkmate. Like you play rook g1, white has to move the bishop on c1, and then you play bishop e6, right? And then he resigns.
Yeah, he would have been in a horrible situation anyway with his bishop in front of the rook. But they are playing on seconds. Look at that.
Well, I know, but Dejan, I thought that they were a lot better than me, and
they might be a lot better than you, David. Don't underestimate yourself, but at the same time, you're a commentator. Commentators see more than the players
see more?
themselves.
Okay.
Of course, yeah, it's easier.
Normally, I see less than the players, but okay.
Usually, the kibitz is extremely strong,
Okay. Well, so this d-pawn gets flung forward for counterplay. It looks... Goodness, I still think he should put his rook on g1, Dejan. It looks like good no matter when he does it. I mean, he would always still threaten f4, right? And then if pawn f4, bishop f5.
He found it, yes. He saw f4. I think he will play it now.
Yeah. But it took like 3 minutes of moving back and forth on increment.
Go for f4. It's checkmate. He didn't see it. Now
see
go
it
for f4. No, Daniel. That's his style. He has always been very solid. Now he will go for f4.
No.
No? He's missing. Checkmate. But he wants c3, c2, and then he will do it.
What he's doing, Dejan, is he's setting the record for the most checkmates in 2 missed by a grandmaster.
No.
What? He's missed like 17 already this game because they keep repeating in a position where he's got checkmate. It's not...
He's losing now.
He's losing, right?
He's losing, yeah.
Maybe
Now he's
now,
coming for checkmate, but that's a little bit too late.
maybe now he'll checkmate him. Oh, it's too late. Pre-moved queen there. Queen c3, rook a7. Nope.
Queen
He also misses
d4 is
checkmate.
checkmate.
Okay.
Queen d4 is checkmate. No, that's
And
checkmate.
there's
Queen
checkmate.
d4.
My
Ah,
lord.
what a finish of the game. Let's go quickly to Ivan. Ivan Christian Kirilla playing Attila Vertetix. Vertetix.
Vertichix.
He should be a relative to Vercingetorix, probably.
The ancient goal.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let me try and find it. Oh, by the way, I can see that San Diego has started their match. The last 4-0 team. We'll see how they do.
Find it quickly.
Find it? Okay. Well, I've
Jan
got.
just missed a draw combination. Black sacrificed his queen, and he made a draw in a
Which
queen and
game?
pawn ending. Jan Christian Kirilla playing Attila
I didn't see
Vertex.
the
Did
game.
you find it?
No.
You didn't? No?
Nope.
It's a pity he just sacrificed. His opponent has just sacrificed the queen to force stalemate. Maybe they just removed it. It should be here, David.
Okay,
Or
I will
somewhere.
find it real quick here.
Just the last two moves, and then
I've
we
got
can go
some.
and see what's Melik doing.
I've got some ability to find these things. Copy all this. Oh, and okay.
And we can definitely go for the Turtles Ninja. They're in time travel after that.
Okay.
Vasif Dirabayli playing with the black piece against Dushko Pavasovic is just winning, I think.
I see it. This queen ending looks like it could be a win for the hackers dictator Chirilla, but instead it's a stalemate.
Just go for the last couple of moves.
I just did, yeah. I showed it.
Perfect.
And it looks like the first round match between San Jose and Budapest Gambit ends in a 2-2 tie. But now we're going to rush over to the time trouble between which players?
They just finished. Durabayli, he just won.
Yeah, Durabayli won.
Yes. Then we can go to the hackers, actually.
Hang on. Okay. I'm going to Kachian and Andreev, the two grandmasters for the 4-0 San Diego Surfers. So here I'm on Andreev's board. He's black against Malte Kolpe of Germany, who I don't know. I mean, he must be the board for the Hamburg Swashbucklers.
I'll give you an insight in a moment when I get there.
Yep.
Just give me a second.
It's an exchange Queen's Gambit structure where white probably played something like a Kali or a Torre or maybe a London, since that's the most popular opening now, and black played c5 and cd4, ed4. So black played the exchange Queen's Gambit.
Excuse me, David. So Malte Kolpe is the lowest board, but his rating is 2394.
Yeah.
And in the first round, he's playing Alexei Drev. It should be added that Hamburg Swashbucklers have a very reasonable team. They have Rasmus Wayne. They have this young talent from Germany, Rasmus Wayne. They have my teammate from Belgium, Twan Burg, who is also quite a young and prospective grandmaster from Netherlands. They have Jonathan Kausted and Malte Kolpe. I have heard these names. I have never seen the players though, so I suspect that they're reasonably young.
Okay. They have a 2.5. They have a 2.5, 1.5 record, as you guys can see here, kind of like just above the middle of the pack in the Central Division. And yeah, they're playing a more balanced lineup, presumably. If their fourth board is rated 2394, then they're not playing anybody super, super high rated on the first board. They're playing more of a balanced lineup. San Diego playing Dreyev at 2660 on board 1 and another jam on board 2. They probably have a lower rated board 4 this round.
Yep. But before you go to Dreyev, why don't you go to Melik? I think that Melik's game is quite an interesting one.
Okay.
It's a crazy game. Like there was a white knight coming on e7. somehow. It came all the way
Yeah,
from b5 to d6, c8 into a7.
right. It came into knight d6 and then took on c8, and then Melik didn't recapture it because queen takes c8 allows queen takes d3, which is a symmetrical pawn structure, and not especially good for black. Instead, he wants to keep his d3 pawn, so he plays knight c6 and queen d4. That's important to keep white from playing bishop e3 and getting control of that square. And now rook a7. So he's trying to win very quickly with this d pawn, or at least put some real pressure with it.
And I think he has every reason to hope for that, because now he can play rook d8, not fearing the move bishop e3, as he can take on b2. Oh, he can with the move d2, which might be even better, actually.
Oh, he's trying. Is he trying to end the game, or is he just trying to win a pawn? That's the question. So, bishop d2, I think, loses to rook d8. I haven't calculated anything yet. I'm just guessing.
You don't need to. You don't need to.
Okay, that's automatic. So then there's queen d2. Now against queen d2, I don't feel like there's any particular tactic for black other than to trade queens and take the two queenside pawns, bishop b2, right?
But Milik fought for a while, so I guess his idea is to go rook d8 and after queen d4 to take with the knight. Give me that rook on f3, but also give me knight b3, knight c2
really?
ideas. Yeah, rook on the back rank, things like that.
Has he played a move, or I just see
No,
d2?
No, they're still thinking.
Still thinking. Okay, so d2, queen d2. You're saying here he could play rook d8 instead of trading?
I think so. Like an idea.
Uh-huh. So if the
queen e4 is also a move.
Yeah, queen e4 is also a move. So if queen takes queen, knight takes queen, white could play rook to d3, I think.
Oh, he just took the pawn.
Okay.
Took
So
on d2, took on e2.
yeah, so he's going for this. This is what I thought. And now the thing is, after rook a2, white has the move rook to b3, and I don't know if he'll be able to hold his extra pawn for very long here.
He should be bishop d4 followed by b6. Bishop d4 giving the bishop on d2.
Okay, so rook b3, the move bishop d4 will leave Melik ahead, huh? This is attacked, and after you save it, then he wants to play b6. So maybe you have to play like bishop e3. And
people asking if we can move to Mamedyarov's game, so this makes sense actually. So let's obey the preferences of our audience, and I think that Mamedyarov, we can never go wrong with Mamedyarov.
All right. So the current position, by the way, they did play these moves, guys, before we move on. Kachin did play bishop d4. Karlstedt retreated his bishop to e1. Kachin plays b6, and he's got his extra pawn to work with now. So that's the result of that tactic d2 that he played, was he actually managed to hold on to that pawn. He calculated this pretty far for such a quick game, huh?
He's what? Excuse me, David. I was trying to.
I thought he calculated that pretty far to be confident when he played d2 to go into that position and hold the extra b pawn at the end. I thought that was pretty good calculation.
He spent some time on that one, so definitely he has seen all of this.
Okay, so here's Mamedyarov playing white finally. And he's playing against Ben Sabo, who we just saw get that somewhat lucky win against Naroditsky. I mean, I also thought that he played super defense all game. So
he is the Hungarian Karakin today.
I don't mean to insult him in any way when I say that it was somewhat lucky, but just like objectively, he could have been checkmated for a long time, and then he won. So that's, in a sense, I don't know. I consider it lucky if that ever happens to me, which it never has.
It probably does, but we are forgetting those things very easily.
Yeah.
But when the other thing happens, we remember this for life. How lucky we were. So yeah.
So here, bishop f4. And now, would you expect black to play e5? Or
after the move bishop f4? Yeah,
C5.
I would expect him to play a5.
I would also expect e5, trying to isolate the pawn on c3 and try and fight against this dark squared bishop. But this is going to be a pretty complicated endgame, I would think, because it's really imbalanced between white's bishop pair and kingside majority.
Very interesting position. Even though it's an endgame, there are so many pieces on the board and it's so unbalanced. The bishop should be happier from this unbalanced situation, strictly speaking, but still there are too many pawns and it's not certain if they are going to prevail to the knights. Also, 7 pawns each. This knight on c4 is very strong. e5 played, by the way, David.
Yep.
So
I suppose he could play bishop c1 if he really doesn't want to put a black knight on e5. Or even this. Okay, give up the bishop pair. Well, I would think the black's position is fine, Dejan, but I'm not a strategical genius. So, what's your evaluation here? Is this a fine position for black?
again, not sure. Too, let's say, I would say that we will have to wait and see. Usually when they show the result, we know who was better.
Yeah, we just assume that whoever wins was playing great. So
Yep,
I would not have played knight
gone.
e3 here. That looks like a clear mistake to me, Dejan.
Oh, I would have taken this bishop. A bishop is a bishop, no matter what. Now maybe knight b6.
But the guy just moved it to e3. This just improves white's king. The
So
bishop
what?
wasn't going to run away next.
No, just go knight b6, knight to c4, check, get rid of the king, which is pretending to be good there.
Okay, so if you wanted to do that, just play knight b6 last move. I don't understand the hurry to make these trades. Doesn't seem right to me.
Actually, no, also c5 makes perfect sense to me now.
Right.
Pressurizing the center.
That's what I would have played last move with the knight still on c4. I would have played c5.
I liked c5 here as well, instead of the move knight b6 that he played. The idea being that on d5, then knight b6, followed by knight c4 check, followed by knight d6. You put the knight in front of the pawn and you're super powerful.
Yeah. That's why I would have played c5 even without the trade. And then once white plays d5, I can decide if I want to trade off his bishop or not. It's just a tactical liability that white has his bishop defending d4 and his king defending e3.
Yep.
But okay. So in the actual game, the knight has come to b6 and c4, and white has kept control of the d4 square so far. And I would guess next he wants to play f4. Yeah, I'm going to quickly check what the record of this Budapest Gambit team is. I think they're a good team as well. I think they have a winning record. I watched them win a match a couple weeks ago when I subbed in. And the Budapest Gambit, have 3 wins and 1 loss. So this is a very strong team, despite not having any super grandmasters like Mamedyarov on their team. Yeah. Dangerous match for the hackers. If they lose to the Gambit, then they're in bad shape for the playoffs.
Greg is saying that Budapest is 3-1. That they won.
Yep. 3-1 record so far as a team. And it looks like the Windmills are off to a 3-1 first round match score against the Direwolves.
So nothing much is happening here indeed. Would you like to have a look at some of the other games from?
Yeah, I'm gonna check in on Andreev now. So he's playing black in this exchange Queen's Gambit structure. And it looks like white just played rook a2, where he has the choice to play rook takes a4, rook takes b2, and trade the a pawn for his b pawn. Instead, he plays rook a2. If black wants that trade, they cannot play a3, b4. Okay, so Andreev cannot force that trade, and he just advances his king. This seems like white's okay.
People asking if they can see standings of the Pro Chess League by teams players, and if there are PGN files available somewhere. After every round, there are
Yeah,
PGN files in
there
the games.
are.
You can check them. All
So
the information that you need is there. So if you just follow the news section, you will see it.
yeah. Also, if you just go to chess.com/pro chess league at any point, it takes you to this page here that I'm on, which has, you see downloads for the PGNs of the games. It has pairings and results from each round, as well as the sort of news story about the biggest events of that round. And here you click on teams or standings, etc. I have the standings open over here where you can see what each team's record is. Right, so you can see which teams were 3-1 going into this week, 3.5, 1/2 for Delhi. The Dire Wolves and the Budapest Gambit, who we're both watching today, are at 3-1. They're in second and third place in the Eastern Division, playing against teams from the Pacific Division today because we are in International Week, which means that normally, I'm showing them the map, Dejan. Normally, all the teams that are red dots here play each other, and all the teams that are blue dots play each other, and green and orange similarly. But today, it's all just mixed up for one crazy Saturday. Everybody plays against anybody.
In the meanwhile, I'm trying to find the game of the Formula champion Ponomariov.
Okay.
I'm not sure who is he playing at the moment. I'll let you know once that I find him, but he's playing for his Dublin team. I saw him playing today, so he should be around. It's not bad having him here at all.
All right, guys. So this is here's a game from the Dire Wolves match against Webster Windmills. This is Grandmaster Ilya Nizhnik, who's former Ukrainian child prodigy, but now a student at Webster and lives in St. Louis, the heart of American chess these days. And he's playing white for the Webster Windmills against Dusko Pavasovich, aka Grandmaster Splinter, the sensei of the turtles. And they've got
the eldest of them.
What's that?
He is the eldest. He is the eldest of all the grandmasters in the squad, so he should be the
eldest. So he's the teacher. That makes sense.
Right.
So we have a pretty interesting like Catalan type structure here. With the bishop trade on f4 has really changed the pawn structure. It's given white a strong grip on e5 and the potential use of the g file, but at the cost of, there's some weaknesses to this pawn structure that can come up later because of the doubled pawn. Meanwhile, it looks like black is also up a pawn, and white, when we just checked in on this game, white was just playing b3, which means they've given up on winning back their pawn on c4, kind of. And so they may get a more permanent pawn sack and go after the pawn on b7 on the open file.
But he's taking the pawn back now. If he goes rook d to b1, which he did, after queen b3, rook b3, the knight on b6 cannot be defended. On rook e6, there is bishop f1. So white is clearly on top. If he takes the pawn back, in this situation, he should be much, much better, thanks to this monster knight on e5, and the very poor bishop on d7.
Right. So if we show like an example position, if the knight on b6 just moves to d5 and white takes on b7, like just consider this position for a second, everybody, and compare the power of the pieces. Oh, I'm kind of hanging the knight on c3, in which case we could win back on d7. Maybe this is a little more complicated. Because of the knight hanging on c3, it might give some chances for black to simplify. But depending on those tactics, you can see that positionally this would be a big advantage for white with the better bishop, the nice knight on e5, and the weak c-pawn, and the rook on the 7th. So, yeah. Depends a little bit on, how we evaluate some of these tactical results here. Let me go back to the game and see if he's made any moves. He's played knight to d5, Dejan, without trading on b3. So now if white wants to break through on b4, white has to trade twice on d5, trading off their bishop, it seems. Oh, but the knight on f6 can't go to d5 without losing this piece. So it'd be something like this, and then queen b4, pawn b4, rook b4. It seems like something like this could happen. One knight trades on d5, black takes back with the c-pawn, and then white wins back his pawn on b4. And to me, the resulting position looks quite holdable for black, quite defensible.
Well, Greg just told me that Grandmaster Ruslan Ponomariov is playing Makumbia, but for some reason I still cannot find him. I'm so sorry about this. Makumbia.
Oh, Nizhnik played a much better move than I realized. He traded his bishop on d5 instead of his knight. Because now, since the whole fight's going to be on the queen side, the white bishop on g2 wouldn't be that great. And having an extra knight over here defending a4 increases white's chances to make progress against black's b-pawn. Yeah, that's much better.
But now still there are some ideas like rook f to c8. Let's see if it is working concretely. Rook f c8, trying to get rid of this knight, but then there is knight takes d7, knight d7, rook takes b7. And if rook c3, rook takes d7. So concretely it's not working, but he wants to put the rook there and eventually to get some counterplay against the pawn on a4. If he manages to trade these two pawns, he should survive on just one flank. But if he loses the one on b7 for nothing, then he will be losing the game.
Yeah. So he might have to play like rook to a7 or rook to b8, something like that, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So he's under some pressure here. Let's see. I want to check in on Melik's game for a moment. It looks like it's going very well for Melik. Yeah, he's got a few minutes to figure this out, and he's using his time to be careful here, even though he's up a couple pawns. But it seems like pretty much a winning position. He has to be careful not to lose these pawns. Basically, he wants to... It's more important for him to keep his pawns on the board than to trade off any of white's pawns. Like in this position, you could consider even rook to d6 instead of taking the g-pawn.
I think he should be winning in tons of ways. Even the rook g3 and then move away the king. Or move away the rook, and if bishop f7, knight f6, you always have.
Right.
Or take, come back on d3, then on d6. It's funny because just now there was a game from the Women World Championship which ended in a similar situation, but white had a dark squared bishop. And black had g and f pawns versus rook and knight. Rook and bishop versus rook and knight, and black also won very comfortably. So the story repeats itself.
Yeah. Melik's really thinking about it, though.
Probably this is not too interesting, though. Maybe we should go to another game.
Okay. All right. Looks like he'll win that. So let's see how Mamedyarov's doing. This endgame wasn't as clear to me before. And it's still pretty weird. Sabo has counterplay.
I agree, but on the other hand, I think that white should be also happy that he managed to trade pawns on different flanks, as he has a bishop. So he should be happy from this.
That his bishop would be better than the knight if they both get past pawns.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it made sense to trade off that c pawn because it was more advanced, right? I mean, it was the big threat in this position from black was that c pawn. Still, since black has this g pawn sort of holding these pawns from queening, I think black's pawns are faster than white's pawns. So I think definitely be tricky for white to... Well, I mean, he's going to have to really use the strength of his bishop here because naturally black's pawns are a little faster.
You know which game I would be very happy to see? The game between the Creek, the Nom Nom Factor.
The Nom Nom. All right.
Yeah, Craig, the non-nom factor. He's
Yeah.
playing Rasmus Svein, two very young and prospective players. One of them already a GM. Craig, as far as I know, he made all his IM norms,
Okay.
but I'm not sure if he is an IM. It says he is an FM.
Oh, there's
I'm
so
pretty
many
sure.
games going. It's hard to find now. Oh, I found it. All right.
But it's a very interesting position. Look,
Yeah.
everything is hanging.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are attacking, or at least White is attacking. He
Right.
doesn't have a lot of pawns though, but maybe he has something here he can
Well, he just played
somehow.
h7 check, so what's his follow-up?
This is the one, knight g4.
Okay.
Now he's threatening simply queen to h6, rook h2, rook h2 directly. And if he pushes the f pawn after rook h2, rook takes a h7 anyway, followed by knight f6 check. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that this should be working because black can play here bishop a4, for example, then would take on c3. So I guess it should be okay for black, but it looks like one of these positions that it's fun to follow.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like bishop b4 should handle this situation. I mean, white's down 3 pawns, right? Just to set the stage. So black doesn't have to achieve very much to come out well here. And he chooses to play f5, very aggressively expanding his pawns on the king side.
Right.
The knight goes to h6, where it now seems kind of self-trapped.
And now
And
rook
the next move has to be
h2.
rook h2, threatening knight f5.
Yeah, and whatever happens, happens. Rook h8 most likely is going to happen. So
I would think you
maybe
could also move the knight now, right? Just get the knight off of h7.
that's
Then
what
the
he
knight
did.
can defend h7 instead of just being a target.
That's
Yeah.
actually what happened. So
Yeah.
I guess there isn't much except that they're very low on time. Maybe this would be a factor.
Right. Now he nails the bishop in on e3 and takes the d file. This is about to be resignable for white. Rook d1. Yeah. How
Kind
true
of
it was.
checkmate here.
How true it
Okay.
was.
So
All right,
no,
we saw
this
blood
wasn't the
spilled.
game that we were looking for.
We saw blood spilled. Let's see.
Back to Mamedyarov then.
Back to Mamedyarov.
Mamedyarov. His h pawn is going to become a queen.
Ooh, rook's traded and the h pawn looks good.
Nobody stops the h pawn.
No, and black hasn't done anything, you know. His pawns got stuck on b6 and a5. White has advanced g4, g5, and h5 since we last looked. So, played a lot more moves than black. He's been moving twice every time black moves.
He also has a ton of time. But the thing is, he doesn't want to let him sacrifice the knight easily. For the pawn on the h file, as then there'll be very little material left. So I guess Mamedyarov wants to play f5, f6, clear the road for the h pawn and promote it into a queen together with the g1.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, is he fast enough? f5, e3, f6, captures with the pawn, g6.
I mean, if black could put his king on h8 and trade his knight for the f pawn, isn't that even a theoretical draw? No, not quite.
Not quite. Not
Because
this
white
one.
can play g6 and then h6, gh, and king f6. Well, actually, it's black's own pawns on the queen side that undo him. There's no stalemates.
No, but Mamedyarov wants to stop the pawns with the king so that nobody bothers him on the king side, and after that he wants to do this job with f5 and f6.
Mm-hmm.
And when you capture on f6, g6 and g7.
Right. I mean, that's why as black, I'd like to put my king closer to the h-file. Then if you ever play f6, I just take it with my knight instead of my pawn.
He thinks that he has enough time to do this.
But he's trying to keep his king in the center and play the whole board and still use his queenside pawns. He hasn't given up on them.
Maybe he wants to deflect the bishop first. Look at that bishop. If it has to come back, then This knight can go somewhere to attack on f8, to e6, and then to f4. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to defend. To win, I mean, not to defend. Obviously, it is only white who is playing for the win here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now his king goes in the direction I was suggesting. I'm not going to say the right direction, but
your direction, which is the
my
right
direction.
At least for you.
Yeah. Okay, now you would expect b3.
Most likely, yes. So a3, one of the two. a3 kind of nastier, actually.
a3, bishop to b1.
Oh, knight c5 is also a move, but knight c5 just king b4. I don't really care.
Oh,
what is that? Oh, he goes for the f4 pawn.
Yeah. White can't allow king b4, knight d5 if they want to win. I mean, that would be a dead draw. So.
But he doesn't have a choice, so he will have to allow it.
Because if he moves his king away, the black pawns are pushing forward, huh?
You're just promoting king b5, e3, bishop e1, b3, and e2.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah. Yep, that was a good move.
Yep.
All right, so I think he's just drawn the game, but maybe Mamedyarov will try to find a way to play this out some more. But after knight f4, I mean, how does his h-pawn is being attacked?
No, nothing. Everything disappears. That's a draw.
Okay. Gh6 draw. All right.
Again, wonderful defender by the Hungarian player.
Wow. So he just scored 1.5 out of 2 out of some difficult positions against the top 2 players of San Diego. So, I mean, if he can score against their 3 and 4 somewhat, then this board 4 could really be the deciding factor in this match.
David, how about we go to see the game between Bobby Law and Verdenote? Bobby Law is Bindi Cheng from Canada, and Verdenote is Gawain Jones, who is famous for his entertaining style. And you guys know that he recently won the B section of the Tata Steel tournament, so next year we will see him playing the top guys like Magnus and so. And he plays the King's Indian.
Right.
So.
And it looks like he played the King's Indian here, right? His position looks terrible.
Yes.
Which is what I always expect when someone plays the King's Indian. My goodness. I mean, I guess he sacked a couple pawns to let his dark squared bishop get the open diagonal. It seems losing. I don't know. Would you play bishop a7 or bishop d4? Take his a pawn too? Yeah, with the white pieces.
Bishop d4. Oh, I don't have rook f5 because you're taking with a check. I thought that I can trick you.
Yep. I'm not hanging my piece because on any capture on f5, whether it be the rook or the bishop, I recapture and it's check. So I have time to save this piece.
You're hanging the pawn on f2, which is equally bad. I will take on d4, take on f2. Yeah, rook f2.
So on bishop d4, you just trade on d4, knight takes, and then play rook f2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you say equally bad, but this looks like a winning position for white. Maybe not, though. It's messy. Like I was thinking of rook d2, but then maybe black can play the weird move e3. And the point is, rook takes rook, pawn takes rook f1, and then, I don't know, queen e1 check or something. So white's never quite getting time to clean up that e-pawn and attack the black king, because the pawn just keeps going forward and promoting. Okay, so maybe that's not a good idea. Let's see what's happened. He took on a7, Dejan.
Yeah,
there's the greedy move. There's the I take every single thing you have move.
And that's a King's Indian move. Rook takes b5.
And there's the King's Indian move. My position's so bad that I can afford to play random sacrifices and hope that they work.
Exactly. Yeah, and they usually work, actually.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Okay. In real games, they do work. If you're playing against a computer, they usually don't, but in real games, they do.
Yeah, if you were black against a computer here, I mean, you might as well resign throwing your pieces at white like this. Let's double check if this bishop d4 doesn't defend white now. So knight takes b5, queen takes b5, bishop d4. Now, I'm stopping checkmate on b2 for the moment, which is good. If black takes on d4, then when I play knight d4, I attack the queen. So that should restrain rook takes f2 for a moment. But maybe black just plays queen d5 in that position and just plays for compensation. Um, suddenly he's got a strong knight on d3, pressure on f2. Bishop can come out to e6 if the knight retreats from d4.
Yeah, also bishop a6, bishop c4 ideas.
Okay, so let's see. Current position is Bindi is considering his options. Assessing what has just happened. Rook takes b5.
This is what usually happens when you're playing Gawain. So usually people are getting quickly big advantage or seemingly big advantage, and then all of a sudden he starts throwing pieces at them. And people really don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Very resourceful, extremely good defender. I have seen him saving positions down a rook, winning positions down a rook. Not a big deal for him.
So Bindi thought for a bit before trading on b5. He wanted to prepare what his defense was going to be, and then after trading, he immediately plays queen to b3 as his defense here. He's maybe trying to keep his d5 pawn alive so that the light squared bishop for black can't start to come out.
He does, yeah.
Because he's letting black win the pawn on b2 if they want after a queen trade.
And the one on f5 as well. It's practically going west after queen b3, b3, bishop f5, pawn takes check, king h8, and the one on f5 cannot be defended.
Right. This position actually doesn't look that easy for white. Black takes on f5. Black's knight and bishop seem like they're on good squares.
But maybe not that bad neither.
But not that bad either, yeah.
But yeah, Gawain is not going to trade queens if he can mate you.
Okay, he didn't trade queens, you're right.
Yeah. Now I think it would be a good idea for white maybe just to take this bishop on c8 with check and take on c8, because potentially it's going to be quite a nasty piece. But on the other hand, he has problems with the pawn on b2, and after that the rook will be coming on e8.
Right, if black doesn't even take the knight back on c8 but just plays rook f2.
Ooh, you evil man.
Oh no, the bishop's still covering it. Blunder.
Yeah.
This is the third time that in my head I calculated a variation where I forgot that the bishop was defending f2. So in a speed game, that's one of the advantages of putting your piece so far away. Nobody expects white to have a bishop on a7 defending f2. Let's see what's happened. He simply retreated his bishop to the simple e3 square and gave up the b2 pawn.
I don't really think that this was a good idea. Bishop d4 was at least needed to. If you're going to give away that pawn on b2, trade the bishop. Why do you leave the bishop on board?
Well, I think probably what he didn't like about bishop d4 was the black rook coming to f2 again.
So who cares? Is it easier this way with the knight coming on e4 and on c3 now? Or with the bishop on d7 and on a4, on d7 and b5 and d3? Is it easier?
Somehow they both look bad. No. Nothing looks easy anymore. Well, let's say he plays... If he plays bishop d4 now, black has time to take back the exchange. Actually, it could be maybe an interesting line. No, it's not good enough.
You want to push d6 after that?
I was thinking, but it just doesn't do enough. It doesn't matter.
Very complicated position.
Well, it's just not quite doing enough. Huh. Rook to d4. There's a move. That looks more like a chess move. Very nice. So he's trying to win this knight and by trapping it in. And he's also trying to take the pawn on e4. And his justification is that if black ever trades on d4 to, get the knight out of this situation, then white will have a funny little checkmate.
H6. That's a nice checkmate indeed, yes, but most likely it's not going to happen. No reasonable King's Indian player is going to give away this bishop on e5 for some rook. Come on.
Yeah.
That's not reasonable. Maybe even a move like
King h8.
King h8, yeah.
To threaten to take on a5 at some point.
But does he have time for this? Because the knight is hanging. Maybe he doesn't. Rook d4 seems like a very strong move. Knight d3, okay, rook e4. And where is the knight going after that?
1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back.
You're back?
Yeah, just dealing with something real quick. All right.
Yes, DJ Grim, thanks for asking this question. There is free diamond membership this week, and good reminder to everyone here in the chat. Guys, be active. We are giving away 1 month of free diamond membership to those of you, to that person who is very active, asking questions.
A queen trade? A queen trade?
A queen trade.
A queen trade. Gawain offered a queen trade and then took a queen trade.
He must be desperate, huh? No, he still wants to checkmate.
He still wants to checkmate? So how's he going to checkmate here?
After say bishop f5, g5, king h8, if white takes rook c7, he will go rook e8 and rook a1. But most likely this is not going to happen.
Uh-huh.
So Bindi, amazing rook d4 move. I loved it. It was very good resource.
Yeah. I mean, he's activated his rook completely. He got Gawain to trade queens.
Yeah.
Now Gawain is playing king to h8, trying to be sneaky about bishop f5.
Which is a trap, yeah, you know, this line that I was telling you about. If bishop f5 first g5 and king h8, then he wouldn't go for this. But now he went for that. So
oh, you know, white has rook to a7 to defend in your line, Dejan.
Oh.
You see that now? I think
yeah.
I think maybe that's what Bindi has in mind.
Yeah, most likely.
So black can also play rook to b8 in this position. I don't know if that's particularly strong for black.
Most likely not after king c2.
Right. I mean, it looks like white might even be able to play rook h1 and allow rook b3, king to a2.
Yeah.
Might be another option. I'm not sure. Or king c2, as you say. So let's see. Wait, what are they doing?
b4, which is
rook takes c7. He just plays knight b4.
That's probably a resignation. Yeah.
He really needs this d pawn. I think they've been really fighting over this d pawn in a bunch of these tactical lines we've been looking at.
But now knight e7 simply is probably just wrapping up the game, or even bishop d4. Rook h1 also an idea. Rook h1.
This is a good move.
That's an excellent move. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is strong. The idea is rook h7, knight h6, mate. So it seems to force bishop takes f5. Actually, the move you suggested, knight e7, looked really good too. And Josie Wales suggests knight takes d6 would have been a very good move for white there as well. Which I think he's right about. Black couldn't take it because of bishop d4. If you guys look at this position for a second. You know, get rid of black's d6 pawn. That's kind of the basis of their position. Then go to f7. But I guess knight d6, knight d5 would have been a little bit messy. No, then rook c8. Oh, yeah. Knight d6 was winning, for sure. Okay, back to the board. And after gf5, black has taken d5, sacking h7, which he couldn't defend.
The non-known factor's name is Greek Hilby.
Yeah.
To those of you who are asking.
Nizhnik won his game against Splinter. This game that we'd looked at earlier. Yeah. It looks like white got a rook into c7 and black was just always under pressure from white's rooks here. Then he won a pawn. And then he won the game. Okay, back to our King's Indian defense.
Just to mention to Bet Amateur that here on the top of our heads, you can see the results. They are updating periodically. But of course, you're right. We should mention this every once in a while. The most interesting match for the time being is obviously the one between the San Jose Hackers and the Budapest Gambit, which is tied currently 4-4. And the Webster Windmills already have taken very good lead of Ljubljana Direwolves. They are leading 5-2, and this is quite a serious advantage, I would say, if Ljubljana Direwolves do not win their 8th game, then it will be practically very difficult to catch up.
Yeah.
So Gawain is still playing.
Gawain is still playing here.
He's down in exchange, and he's down a pawn. But I wouldn't be surprised if he saves this as usual, as I told you.
Oh yeah, the game we were watching for Dryav against Multiculpid, the 4th board for the Swashbucklers drew this rook endgame. Yeah, he always was maintaining the balance that game, so that's a really good result for him. Despite which, the Surfers take a small 2.5, 1.5 lead in the first round.
Melik has won his game in the meanwhile as well.
Yeah, Melik won, as we expected.
Not a great surprise, judging by his position. And we have Ruslan Ponomariov, who had just started his game against 2 KT Go.
Let's see. 2-Night Tango, International Master Georgy Orlov of the Seattle Sluggers. And it's a French defense.
With the modern bishop e7 move on move number 3.
Yeah.
This is considered to be the modern line. It's quite a tricky move here, not yet showing the intentions of your knight on g8. It can go to f6 later, but it can go also to h6, which it did in this game.
After the quick e5. Which I think normally white doesn't play e5 till black plays knight f6. So I think Ponomariov's playing, not the most common move here with e5. But one of the ideas is this line, which he doesn't even use, is to play quick queen g4 maybe here. But he plays
e5 is the move, and c5 queen g4 is one of the theoretical lines.
Yeah, but he plays c3 instead. So I think he's really off into like a sideline of a sideline at this point already.
He's just having fun himself.
Queen to a5. That's a somewhat surprising move. Huh.
Well, people are asking how is Gawain saving this. I don't know, honestly, but he does save those games. I'm not sure he's going to save it today, but usually he does.
Here he's trying to save it with the e-pawn. In our current position, white's kept the f-pawn, which is another threat to win the game.
No, this time he's not going to save it.
Oh, he's not saving this one. No.
He's not going to save it. No, the queens are off the board. Usually he's saving the game.
Yeah.
When the queens are on the board.
Yeah. I see a couple people saying that Gawain must be losing this time, and you are correct, guys. This one is over. Rook to g6. Nice. Keeping the bishop off its favorite diagonal. Gawain's bishop is not happy when it's not on this King's Indian diagonal.
In the meanwhile, Nizhnik defeated Dushko Pavasovic, the splinter.
Yeah.
The turtle teacher lost. So back to Ponomariov, maybe.
Yep. I've clicked back there. White played bishop d2, and he played queen to b6. I am not a fan of this maneuver. I mean, basically the point of queen a5 instead of queen b6 is so that white's b pawn would be undefended in this position when you go after d4. But to me, it's not even a great idea for black to take the pawn on b2. Plus, white has the option of bishop c3 now. I simply don't understand this queen maneuver that develops white's piece.
Yeah, bishop c3 has been played, so most likely he's going to attack now.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking that, just castles would be fine as well. Whatever, take a pawn, just keep moving your queen. But of course, bishop c3 is a very simply good option to me, and I don't know what black is going for this way.
David, this game
Yeah.
is very, very early on, very early in the beginning. How about we have a look at Shakriyar's game against Attila Vertetix? He's
Okay.
playing with the black pieces,
Got it. I'm on
and
it.
I'll be looking also for the game of
Looks like another Grunfeld from Shakriyar.
Grandmaster Trev, maybe.
With very quick equality for black and then some. I mean, a very, very comfortable position for black here. All the pieces developed. Control of the e4 square, and the white bishop on e1 is not very good. I've seen a lot of positions like this in my career, Dejan, with the black bishop being on d6 instead of g7, just out of Morans and semi-Slavs and those kind of queen's gambits. And the bishop on e1 is not amazing.
Definitely, it is not, but you never know. It might turn itself into a nice piece somewhere in the future, but I know one thing for sure. These two fianchetted bishops cannot be wrong in this situation.
Yeah.
In fact, what Rubinstein liked to do, he liked to clear the road for those bishops by jumping with the knight on e4 in the proper moment, and then these guys were starting to shoot from the left and from the right, and
Yeah.
it was kind of unpleasant. Even though he had the one on g7, usually on c7, but
Yep.
that was a typical way of clearing the road for them.
Yeah. Again, he would get these positions like me by playing the semi-Slav and the Moran, etc. I mean, those openings are basically like developed by Rubinstein. So I was basically trying to copy his games by playing this way. And I think that basically the white bishops are reduced to trying to defend f3 and c3 from black, doubling your pawns or destroying your pawn structure at some point. And the black bishops are both putting pressure on c3, f3, and g2, b2. So it's a great position for black.
Yep, still not much going on here. So how about we go to the game between Igrok,
Igrok,
3069,
definitely.
yes, who is playing Jonathan Carlsen. This is Grandmaster Dreyev playing with the white pieces. This
Ooh.
game is basically over, but I just want to have a look at the mastery of Alexei Dreyev.
It looks like he has just tried to deliver a knockout blow here with knight f5. Let's see how it happened. Queen f2, threatening rook f7. Black doesn't even defend f7, so that gives you a sense of how powerless black must be here. I mean, there's no way in which rook g5 threatens a counter tactic or anything, right? White could take on f7. And instead, Dreyev plays knight f5.
Just to mention, because people are asking if Bindi had won. Yes, he had won. So this time, Grandmaster Norte Verde could not escape. Gawain Jones didn't show his magic
Right.
against Bindi.
We see the London Towers amazingly off to a 0-2 start against the Toronto Dragons. I thought that the London Towers were a really good team in general in the standings, but I don't know every division that well, so let me do a quick check here. Yeah, they've got 3 match wins and 1 loss. So they must be a pretty strong team, and they're going up against the Atlantic Division's Toronto Dragons, who are 2-2. So you might think so far that the Towers were the stronger team, but they start off in a hole against the Dragons today. Okay, knight f5, knight to e5. So black is not defending h6 or his rook or his d6 pawn, which is the anchor of his position. It's really a buffet for Dreyev here. What would you eat here, Dejan?
What will I eat? Well, I like Italian food. Actually, I like anything. I like Chinese, sushi, you name it. So, do I have to restrict myself to just one choice?
To just one choice? Do you have a way to take more than one of these?
Yeah, of course. It's not fair. Come on. But I think that he is going for the king. Now he will go queen h4 and he will try to checkmate it.
Mm-hmm. Queen h4. Then the only plausible defensive move is probably rook to g6, I would say. Because you can't allow queen h6, I think. So rook g6, and then you can play
take on e7.
Then you can play knight e7, queen e7, rook g6, knight g6, saving the queen. Queen e7, knight e7, and Dejan does get to eat more than one thing. After all these trades, winning the rook on e7,
No, rook f6.
He'll
I'll
play
take all your
he'll
pawns.
play
Come
rook
on.
f6 and he'll take the next thing.
Don't underestimate me. I have a lot of ability to eat stuff.
Mm-hmm. He's got the appetite, the will, and the means. All right, so that would be pretty brutal. Let's see what the actual position is. Still 95, so he's thinking. So he takes on d6 first, threatening the queen. That should allow him to next take on e7 or h6 as well. So nothing wrong with rook d6 that I can see.
Nothing wrong.
Rook d7 saves the rook at least. Knight h6 check. So there's two. There's two morsels. King. Okay.
Is he going to take on d7, f7, b7? 4 of them?
I think he's got queen h4 next in this position, actually.
You think he's such a cruel person? He is. Probably he is.
I think so. Oh, I was wrong. All right, so here it's got to be the queen that takes. And then what is white playing?
I'm pretty sure Dreyf is now asking himself, why isn't my opponent just resigning?
Because he could just play knight f7 and trade into a rook endgame with like 3 extra pawns, including four connected passers.
He's going to play this way because this is the Russian school. They don't really go for any beauties when they can win in a nice technical
It's like
way.
I take your pawn, I take your pawn, I take your pawn. Did you notice that the last 4 moves in a row I took pawns for free? Okay, good game.
Good game. Let's go back to Ruslan because there is some action there. He's up a piece actually. How did this happen?
Jeez. Let us see. So the last time we were in this position, we had something that looked like this. The players were just developing g4. Okay.
Somebody got stuck on h4 and
sounds the
disappeared
attack.
from the board.
Trades over here. f4, threatening g5. Knight to b4, ignoring it. Bishop b1, f6, a3. c6. Okay, checkmate threat. Wow, f6 with the bishop on h4 was pretty greedy, huh, Dejan?
Yeah.
And there goes the piece. Oof.
Yeah, I have seen this bishop on h4 disappearing in other games too. So this is one of those tricky pieces. One moment it is here, next moment it's gone. Gone. Usually it's gone. So don't put it on h4. It's not a very good square.
I mean, I've had to do it sometimes playing the French and the Carlsen, but then right after you trade on h4, right, and white plays f4, your next move is bishop e7. You know what I mean? Like if it has to go here to trade that knight, you're cramped. You can't always be a chooser when you're cramped, but you don't leave it here to just sit there, right? On your very next move, instead of knight b4, you retreat it. And you play bishop to e7. And I'm sure that Ruslan had a great position anyway after f5. But he left his bishop on h4, and now he's lost his bishop on h4. Bishop e6 to cover d5, f5, as we would expect. And that kind of ends the game, this move f5. I'd been thinking about this before when he played bishop a2, because basically if black takes, it opens up the g file to checkmate him. But if he plays bishop f7, then white can play f6.
And because there is no dark squared bishop, it's going to be checkmate on the dark squares.
Yeah.
And
very
on this
quickly
move,
the end.
What were you thinking about queen b2, David?
He played queen b2?
Have you seen this
I
one
don't know.
coming?
You can do anything you want, right?
Like
maybe queen to h6.
Oh, take on g6 first?
You want to take on g6? Yeah, that's pretty good. I was thinking queen h6. I defend d2, and my queen's hitting g6 and e6 now.
Much safer, yes.
I hate to play a safe move in a position where I just want to ignore my opponent and checkmate them, but somehow once I defend d2, it seems like all black can do is resign. I even have the idea of rook f to b1, and then queen c2, rook b7. Which seems like totally the wrong direction from which to checkmate your opponent, but whatever.
DJ Grim is asking about our comment, about my comment about Grandmaster Drev, that this is the solid Russian school. They're trying not to give a single chance to the opponent, and he is rhetorically asking, don't we all simplify if we know it will give us an easily won endgame?
No,
Well, I know people who don't. I usually try to do this as well,
no,
but
no.
there are
Like me
people
and
who
like
don't
me
do
in this
it.
position, um, that he had here, I would have definitely tried to win it with something beautiful. I was always looking at like Queen H4. I want to sack a rook instead of taking the rook, and find some way to just checkmate this king. And every move that I was predicting in this position, basically he didn't play. So there's definitely different approaches to
There are.
winning positions.
There are
Okay.
people. There are people who don't do this. Okay, so in the meanwhile,
So Ponomariov
Ponomariov,
just traded this piece,
he
allowing
took on
d2 to be
h7 and
taken. Then he
d5.
plays bishop d5. Here he's threatening e7, which
So
we have to assume would be powerful.
it is. After rook f1, queen e2, there is e7 check, and if king h8, queen f6 checkmate. If king g7, rook f7 followed by queen takes h7 is checkmate. It's fairly easy for a player of this caliber to calculate this. Maybe it took him about 1.5 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the
Now,
point of this line for black is that they've got a threat of checkmate themselves. So white has to, not just have a good position, but have something pretty serious. And e7 is in fact checkmate. So
now let me predict how this is going to happen.
okay,
And 97, queen e7, queen e2, queen takes f8 check, followed by e7 check, and this is the way that the game will end.
oh, that's nice, Dejan.
I think so. I think this is the way that it will end. For some reason, I don't know why.
Mm-hmm. That's a very reasonable way for it to end. I agree. And from here, anything that white wants to do. Yeah, so queen f8 is going to be a nice move in this
Oh
position here.
no, he did rook f7.
Right.
Solid win.
Oh, sorry. So in this position, he didn't play queen f8?
No, he didn't listen to me.
Well, rook f7 also wins really, really fast. I mean, it's threatening checkmate, and if black trades, you can take with queen, check on f6, and e7 is mate. So to be honest, rook f7 might win even faster than the more beautiful queen f8.
It's a question of style, and it's a question of what you see first. The one that you see first, the one that you see first, you go for it because you're playing that's.
Yeah, you see one win, you double check it, and then you play it. You don't look for 10 others.
So this one is over. White won. Back to the game of
Designs.
Mamedyarov. So maybe there is a lot of action there.
All right, I'm on Mamedyarov now. We'll see how he
Mamedyarov.
presses this position. So there was the one rook trade that we saw. Since then, it's just been some maneuvers. Both sides have played b4 and b5, and so now a question becomes who has better use of the outposts on c4 and c5.
This game reminds me very much of one of the games of the match, Capablanca against Alekhine. Alekhine did something similar, and he occupied this c4 and a4 squares, and he won a brilliant game. And I'm pretty sure that Mamedyarov also knows that one, and he is putting the knight on c4. And now, in a position like that, the question is who is the first one to put the knight there?
Mm-hmm.
And just to attack everything from this position.
Yeah. I feel like there might also be a mini threat of queen c7 at some point, but I guess knight a2 would diffuse that possibly. So maybe that's not a big deal. Yeah.
Bet Amateur, if you're looking for results from the current matches, you can see them on the top of our heads.
Yep.
We're updating them. Every time that there is a result, you will see updating it.
I also have this display, which I can flash every now and then for you guys. This shows all the results of all the matches today. So up at the top, you guys can see the matches that were played earlier today. And all the results there, pretty much. And then you can see all the matches going on right now.
Excellent, David.
Yeah. So we can look at this every now and then. I see the Portland Rain has a lead against the Belgrade Sparrows. I don't think the Rain has won a match before, so that might be exciting for them. Yeah, they're 0-4. So that might be exciting. But when we click back here, basically I'm just showing you guys the results of some of the main matches that we're watching. Webster against Ljubljana, San Diego Surfers now ahead 2 points against the Hamburg Swashbucklers. That's the last perfect team trying to stay perfect. And yeah. Okay, so another trade happens here. So I would expect the bishop to come to d5, Dejan, but that's just like the instinct without any calculation. Okay, it does. Do you think that a position like this is like winning or just pleasant? And if your opponent plays well, it'll be a draw.
Well, winning is a very big word,
Yeah.
but it's quite an advantage, I think, for black. Now, winning definitely it shouldn't be winning, I believe, because the resources, the defensive resources that one has are so huge. But by pressurizing the opponent and forcing him to go under 2 minutes, as you can see, he's on 2:48, and this is what Mamedyarov did all his games so far. He was pushing the opponents into time trouble, and he was forcing them to make mistakes after that. It worked well in game number 1, not that well in game number 2, because his opponent had enough time, actually. So it's...
So now he's cashing in for the bishop pair here, I think.
I think it's going to work here, yes.
Yeah.
Bishop pair is there. How is he going to recapture?
White was uncomfortable how to defend his a3 pawn, so... Both recaptures look good, huh?
Yeah, I think so. All the free recaptures look good. Actually.
Well, I probably wouldn't trade the rook. I didn't even consider the rook trade. I would take with the pawn or the bishop.
Yeah.
Probably the pawn.
Because if you keep the rook, you can go to the d file, and the bishop on c4 is going to block the c file. So it makes sense that you just keep the rook alive.
Yeah.
But this one also makes perfect sense because he wants to play for two weaknesses. One will be the king side, and the other one will be the passer on c4. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now white wants to play e4, but he doesn't. But he cannot do it because his knight on d4 is going to drop after that.
Yeah. So he might want to take his king off of this diagonal instead of staying on it, but I guess at the moment he felt like he wanted to defend the e-pawn with his king.
Now maybe this is technically one for black. There are too many weaknesses and two bishops. Also, the king on f2 is weak, so black can attack it in various ways. One is to fix it with h4, then bishop e5, bishop g3, or queen c7, queen g3, queen h2, he can get inside. Or even something like g5 and g4 in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely be looking to attack the king here. That makes a lot of sense. Once white's played f3, there's some weak dark squares on the king side. So I like the idea of just putting the pawn on h4, actually. Then white always has to worry about some queen to b8 or c7 or d6 move being kind of tactical.
A lot of people are rooting for their Canadian teams. I have just saw the tweet that Erik Hansen wrote. He said, "We did it all around. Team effort leads to a narrow win for the ChessBrahs over Norway Gnomes."
Right.
And they really did win this match, 8.5 to 7.5. Amazing match.
Yeah.
Two not very random players played at this match, David.
No. I mean, that was Carlsen's debut for the Norway Gnomes. And I watched one game where international master Amon Hambleton, board 3 for Montreal, drew with Carlsen. It was kind of like
result for him.
Kind of an exciting moment in his life, I would think. I don't know. I don't know if he considers it normal to draw a game with Magnus Carlsen, but I wouldn't.
Well, since I have played one Salman Blitz game in Canada and we ended 1-1, should I consider also making a draw against Magnus myself, or it's not quite right? What do you think?
It sounds like you could do it.
Yeah. Okay. Come on, guys, keep on cheering up your teams. Just go for them. Give us some insights
So here
about
here I
your
think
teams
here I think
if
black
you
can
want
win a
to.
pawn and doesn't do it with bishop takes c3. Interesting. He didn't go for it.
And also, don't forget that we're giving 1 month of free membership, diamond membership, to the most active one here. Rook a8, I guess.
Yeah, but he didn't go for this. I thought he could just trade on c3 and win a pawn, but
Oh wait, rook d3 here is also a move. No, rook a8 he did.
yeah,
Queen
rook a8,
d2.
queen d2. So he's keeping the tension. But white has done some good reorganization of his pieces. You know, the bishop is ideal here, blockading the c pawn and defending b4. And then he moved his heavy pieces to the d file because it's pointless to stare at the c pawn.
He made a lot of progress. This is true.
Yeah.
It's not that clear, especially if he manages to trade the queens. This is going to be great for him. He should be capable of holding this.
Right. So you think he's going for queen d6 next move, maybe?
I think so, yes.
Start taking some space in the center. You could try to restrain that as black with bishop h6, targeting e3, but unfortunately, it looks like white can get away with bishop takes e5 if you do that. So
yeah, I come back on d4 after that.
Yeah, so that restraining just doesn't seem to be available. I don't know what Mamedyarov goes for next here, but I guess we'll find out.
5 minutes on his clock, his opponent only on 56 seconds. He is desperate not to trade the queens because without the queens it would be way easier for white to do moves and to get this 2 seconds increment after which each move that he makes. Just a reminder to you guys that this is the time control, 15 minutes per game and 2 seconds per move. So even if you're very low on time but you're winning and you can do some moves fast, there is no chance of your opponent escaping from its fate. Now bishop c6 is stopping the trade.
In advance, and the white queen still comes to that square. I mean, it's just a good square, right? It's defending b4, it's attacking e5, it's taking space. He could go to c5 next move would be acceptable. Looking to maybe win the c pawn or push b5 or play rook d6, depending on how black responds to it.
But you have to be careful not to get trapped there after some bishop f8 in the future. Oh, you have queen e5. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting trapped. 25 seconds down, 22. That must be very painful for white to play here. Bishop h6 now. Isn't this a problem, bishop h6? How is he going to defend? Or is this
queen
a trap?
c5 still?
Queen c5. Oh, bishop f8. That's better.
Yeah, that's much better. I thought he should play queen c5 last move.
Where is the queen going now?
To f6 and then bishop to h6.
And now knight f4 is a move for f4 because he cannot capture it. It's checkmate.
He's trying to crack this e5 square, but bishop g7 defends everything.
Now he can take on f4. Now takes on f4 and e3, and that's a win.
It looks like taking on f4 is just a clean win now. White just didn't have the time to negotiate this place, huh?
No, 15 seconds on the clock, even if he had. Bishop f8 again? Why?
Just taking more of his time, Dejan, because he's got 10 seconds and he's in a panic. No, he doesn't go back to it. If queen e5 here, bishop h4 check, people. So
this is what he said, yeah.
So actually there's nowhere to go, is there?
Yeah, resignation is that one.
Wow. You never know when he's wasting your time or when he's just killing you with a tactic. That's why you have to lose your time, because you never know what he's doing to you. So Mamedyarov's off to a really good start today. He's in good form. Putting up some points for the hackers. Looks like this match between the hackers and Budapest is approximately tied right now. It says 4.5 to 4.5 on my scoreboard. Let's see if we can dig up some other players from this match.
We have one other very strong player here, which we didn't had a look yet.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a game of Sisian. He's playing with the white piece against Andrei Ostrovsky. So this is the game Tesla 37 against Andrei Ostrovsky.
Tesla. Let me see. Where are you, Tesla? I'm looking for Tesla. While you guys are currently watching Mihawk playing white against Daniel Naroditsky in a super complicated tactical position. It looks like a Berlin where the queens are still on the board.
Well, we can have a look at this one first, and then we can go to Tesla
Well,
if
it might
you
not
want.
be complicated if he just won a piece. That looks like the end of Naroditsky. Wow. We came in just in time to see the end. Okay, I want to find Tesla, I guess. There, I found him. Okay, you guys, this is a win for Mihawk. He's up a knight suddenly. Looks like he cracked Black's position with e6 and then queen to e5, threatening d4 and queen to e5, threatening the rook on d4 and the bishop on f5. And if you try to defend with rook to d5, he has the winning move queen h8, queen g8, knight somewhere, and resigns.
Yep.
Something of this sort.
Very nasty situation.
So, okay, so back to this game here. Tesla, Movsesian, his position doesn't look that good to me. I guess it might be close to equal. They each have the strong knight, so if either queen wanders in the wrong way, there's a checkmate. This is the optimum square for the knight to coordinate with the queen and keep the opponent pinned down. So can Black eventually win this game by playing c4 and getting an extra pawn on the queen side going? And by the way, the teams, for those wondering, Movsesian is playing for the London Lions. The London Lions started out with not the best start to the season, but then they hired Sergei Movsesian. And that really turned things around for them last week with a big win.
Oh, really? I didn't know that one.
Yeah. This is their new hire, Movsesian.
You know what was the
Queen
Armenian
f2 here.
explanation about him when he took him back into the team? Do you know that Movsesian was representing the Czech Republic for a long time, and I think that he still lives there.
Right.
Czech and the Slovakian Republic he was representing. So when he came back to Armenia and they won the Olympiad, and they were referring to him as God, the Armenians themselves, because they said, they had the saying about him. They said, okay, let's say first board, Runyan, he's very stable. You normally know what to expect from him. Second board also, Sargsyan, very stable. You know what to expect from him. But Movsesian, this is a different story. You never know what's going to happen with him. He's like God, he gives or he takes. You never know.
And you don't know what's coming and you just accept it.
Yeah.
It looks like this game's going to be a draw, actually. Movsesian is he's just going for a repetition with his queen while sacking the knight on e3. And I don't think he could do anything better than that. Once this queen got to f2, Black has a threat of knight takes g2, which is a really vicious threat. He also has a threat of knight to e2 in some position. Like if you tried to play queen c3 defending the knight, then probably knight e2 would win the game. So he went for his chance and just took on c7, leaves his knight hanging, and the game will be a draw here. Either Black will play queen g3, queen e1, or White will play queen f7, queen f8 if Black takes the knight. Am I right, Dejan, or am I missing something?
Well, I don't know if you're missing something, but for sure this would be a very good result for White if he can make a draw here. Well, maybe for Black. You never know. So
yeah.
Let's see.
So here, White's trying to deliver his perpetual. And there it is, f8, f5, f8, f5, right? Tesla has offered a draw. Ostrovsky has offered a draw.
And
And
they
there it
finally
is.
found the button which accepts the draw.
All right. They found the draw.
Found the
And
button. And before we go to Mamedyarov,
yeah.
which we no, sorry, this one we have finished. But before we go to Igrok, who is playing Tvalburov, this is a grandmaster game. This is the game between Alexei Dreyev with the white piece against Van Bork. Can we have a look at the game of Timur Gareev, who is playing Mesut GM?
Absolutely. Timur Gareyev's games were really interesting last week. So let's see what he's up to here. He's got a bishop pair, a weird knight on h4 that just chose to go to h4. So black's trying to get a weakness out of white's kingside while struggling with a space deficit. And the white rooks look better than the black rooks. The a pawn looks like a target. So I can understand black's desire for some counterplay here.
Well, this is the natural desire of every living thing on Earth when you're playing a game of chess, I guess.
Queen to f4. That really invites the knight to g2. What is happening?
Did he play it?
He just played queen f4. I guess he's saying, like, yeah, you can have the pawn on g2, but you'll never come back out.
I didn't see it, so I will have to refresh my board, obviously.
I mean, black threatens g2. You play queen f4. I mean, how much more can you invite him in?
But okay, now e5 and e6 is a threat, and a very serious one. d5, e6.
Yeah.
How is he going to stop this one? The knight is stuck on g2. It's not going anywhere.
I mean, I think if d5, black would take with his bishop, then take on c5 with his rook, counterattacking the bishop on c2 and just leaving the knight hanging. That would have to be the play. Oh, I don't like rook b2, rook a7. That looks like it won't work out.
For white or for black?
For black. I mean, rook b2 was just, he lost a pawn and a tempo, right? That's a lot to give up in a sharp position. You know, white can maybe win with h4, h5. Or maybe now he'll be able to win with d5 somehow. Or bishop to e7.
Positional.
What's that?
You're so positional. You want to play h4 and h5 in this position.
That's what they always do. But you could also maybe win with bishop e7. Might be cool. Oh, I was assuming black was going to play rook to b7 there.
Wait, but here bishop e4. What are you
How
going
about bishop
to do
a4, right? No, yeah.
Yeah.
Bishop a4, and then
e4, bishop e4.
Bishop e4. Okay, why not bishop a4?
Yeah.
I was just going to checkmate on f7 and so on. You're right. It's everything's winning for white here, huh?
Yeah, I think bishop e4 is just taking the knight easy.
Oh yeah, you just want to take this knight. Okay, that's reasonable. You can have it. Oh, but Dejan, he likes me better than you.
Well, David, what can I do? Your buddies, obviously.
Well, it's just another of those the first win you see kind of things. But this should be pretty. This is pretty brutal for black, as you're just coming like queen c7, bishop d6, right? Is the idea?
Yeah,
and
I think so.
I'm just trying to chase this queen off of f7. Honestly, the queen's almost checkmated, so she can play something like queen c4, then queen f7, king h8, and bishop e7. Something like this is the idea.
Yep. And there are no checks. This knight is defending from the checks.
The black knight's blocking the white king for the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, something like this. It's that's nice. That's nice. I like this way to play it. But rook b2 was a terrible move, huh?
I don't really think that there was much that
it didn't matter. But come on, he let you play rook takes a7 with tempo rook to the 7th rank.
Well, but I still have the feeling that he couldn't do anything.
Okay.
Everything Timur Gareev does is interesting, is what Lars Brockbacken is saying. And I kind of agree with him. Knowing Timur, he is not wasting a single second of his life to think of something interesting.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, here if you play bishop e7, as Lars is suggesting, then there's king to g8. So the move bishop d6 looks to me more precise. because it's really not giving black any respite, just chasing the queen off of f7. A tactic which we call removing the defender. I'm on Timur's wavelength today. Maybe because I studied all his games from last week.
Have you?
Yeah.
The one that he defeated the blindfold record. Those?
No, all his games from last week's match.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I haven't looked at all his blindfold games, although I did look at like 5 to 10 of them. Pretty, because I mean, to me, even as like a chess master who can play multiple blindfolded games, to see that kind of performance, like what was he playing for 20 some hours, like 20, 22 hours, like blindfolded, dozens of games. Even to me, it's just like amazing that the mind can do that.
People asking if the American players are playing better blitz than the European players. What is your opinion on that one, David?
I have no idea, Dan. My guess would be that it's about the same, like relative to their general strength. You know, like for example, Wesle So and Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana, they're good at slow chess, and they're also probably pretty good at speed chess. And then, you know, then American players who are rated 2000 are probably not that good at speed chess either.
Well, there is one huge exception, Bulgarian exception, Veselin Topalov, who is terrible at blitz. Just terrible.
Look, Dejan, they're playing every single move we predicted. Like, even up to, like, queen takes c4. And now bishop e7 would be the last move.
David, you have seen this game before.
They played it 2 years ago, and they're just replaying it, so spoiler. But you're saying that Topalov is terrible at blitz?
Horrible, not just terrible. Horrific. Didn't you see his performance from the St. Louis tournament? He did well in the slow chess, in the rapid, and then in the blitz. So just complete washout.
Wow. Okay, so Haria continues the game for the moment, but let's see. Yeah, I did see that, but that was against really good players. You know, I feel like, you know, you can lose a game or two and lose your spirit, and then they just keep killing you. I don't know, like, that he would be bad against, you know, players rated below 2700.
David, I think that Timur is no longer that interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Can we go to Ponomariov, who is playing Grandmaster Mark Velashvili? They have just started the game. Or you prefer to go to Dreyev, who is playing Tvanburg?
We've got a few good options because we're getting into the fourth round for a lot of these matches. We've got like board 1 versus board 1s. Like there's an interesting Benko Gambit between Mamedyarov and Mihawk that we can check in on. There's oh yeah, this game of Dreyev's is interesting too. And
he's up pawn.
He's up a pawn, but he's got some development issues. I guess he's threatening to bring his knight back into the game pretty impactfully on d4 or e7. Either one would potentially decide this game.
While people are thinking about this position, just want to mention some of the results. Probably they're also interested in the results. San Jose Hackers are leading 6.5 to 5.5 the Budapest Gambit, which appears to be a very close match, even though on paper San Jose Hackers should be the stronger team.
Yeah, I mean, international master Oliver Mihawk, who we're seeing here playing the very bold Benko Gambit against Mamedyarov. He beat their second board Naroditsky, and I think that this round the Budapest Gambit have a really good chance at a comeback, especially if Mihawk can get half a point or more off of Mamedyarov, because I would think that the third and fourth boards for Budapest would have a really good chance this round, would be my guess, but we'll see. I think they've got a good chance at a comeback.
Another very tight match is Johannesburg Coxester versus San Francisco Mechanics.
Yeah.
4.5 to 4.5. It couldn't be tighter than this one. And we have the Belgrade Sparrows, who Just 1 point down to Portland Rain. And of course, the other sluggers are leading 5-3 Dublin Desperados. Dublin Desperados are playing without um, the international master Sam. What was his family name? It just
Sorry, say that again.
Sam.
Which match?
The Dublin Desperados.
Sam Collins?
Yes, Sam is not playing. Let's see Drev. People are saying, let's see Drev. Let's go for Drev.
All right, so his knight just came to d4.
How many games are played in one day?
In one day? Well,
In one day.
let's see. Every player plays 4 games. There's 4 players on a team, so each team plays 16 games. And there are 12 matches in a day.
Should I use the calculator?
No. I
No?
think we can get that one as 184, but let me see if I counted the number of matches right. I think so. Oh no, there's twice that many. There's 24 matches in a day. So it's 368 games.
Timur won his game.
Yeah. Timur has won
And
his game. His queen took the rook on f2 and then came back in, and that was it.
Drev managed to trade the queens, which is good news for him, but
Yeah.
is he really winning this one? Still, I don't
Yeah,
quite
not
see
really.
how is he going to untangle his pieces on the
Right.
queen side.
Black has the sort of Benko Gambit counterplay here, right? With the bishop
Right?
and the A and B files. And I don't feel like black should really be worse.
Probably just take on g2, rook e8, jump on e4 after that with the knight.
Mm-hmm. Where would you put the black rook?
On a8.
On a8? The other option is c8, right?
You like it there?
Okay.
Whenever you like it, just put it there.
Actually, I would just play knight e4 right away, Dejan. I think it's so important. I don't want to let white play f3 or king f3.
Yes.
I play
This
knight
makes
e4
sense.
right away so that my bishop starts pressuring b2.
Juan is listening to you. Yeah.
And then if he trades, I take back. And now, depending what he does, I'll play, rook b8 or rook c8 or rook c4 or rook a8. I don't think that white could have any advantage in this position.
I think he needs to trade on e4. I mean, well, he can get an advantage if, for example, he trades on e4, then pushes e4, a5, gives away this pawn on b2, but he gets this passer with the rook from behind.
Oh, by the way, Twanberg has just done exactly what we said. He played knight e4 immediately.
Of course, everybody's listening to you today. David, I'm jealous.
Nobody ever listens to you. So if he goes for this a4 plan, if Drev goes for a4 like you suggest, that definitely, I would want to try to corral that pawn if I could as black, but I don't know if I can. Rook a8, a5, the pawn keeps going.
Lars said that Drev never pushes his pawns past the 4th rank until move number 80.
Move 80. He's waiting. He's being careful. Careful. Never know if you'll be able to protect it.
You know the theory of Grandmaster Sveshnikov, why Drev never became world champion? Well, he became world champion under 16 and under 18, but he said that he never really revealed his potential because he was playing the French and the Caracan. These are not openings for world champions. This is what he was saying. If you want to be a world champion, you have to play either e5 or c5. There is no other opening.
Although Karpov did it okay with the Caracan.
Yeah, but he was already world champion.
Yeah.
Before that, when he was playing for the world championship, he did c5. He played the Carlsen and the Kam, and he also did e5 actually.
Yeah. I mean, he could play lots of different openings. It is true. All right, so let's refresh the current position. Wait, all this got played. All right, nothing wrong with my analysis board. He did play a4, rook a8, a5. And in this position,
listening to me.
In this position, I was looking at rook to e5, and then bishop to d2, And then I think he tries to
Rook b5.
maybe harass that bishop with rook d5.
No, I think he needs to push the pawn to a6 and push it all the way to a7. The pawn on b2 is not important at all. Actually,
Yeah,
he's happy to give it away
yeah.
and then to go rook b1, rook b8. So I think
So you think he keeps
Drave
going
should
with
go
a6
a6.
now, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. There it is. Now they're listening to you, Dejan.
now they're listening to me. Yeah, David. Now you should be jealous of me.
I'm not. I'm happy for you. I'm just not a
Now
jealous person.
now
I
I
don't know what
feel
to tell you.
miserable.
I thought that he would play. I'm completely off now. I was thinking that he would play rook to e6 here, and then after a7 play bishop d4. But maybe there's
Then
something
bishop
terrible
e3.
about it.
Yeah,
Um,
bishop e3 then.
Bishop e3, then trade it and play rook b6 to b7 quickly. I guess it's not
No,
quick
but
enough.
rook a2 and
Yeah,
rook's a double. It's not good
yeah.
enough.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he didn't do that. So he goes, whoa. He goes bishop e3, bishop takes b2. Okay, so Dreyev obviously has a big advantage now with the pawn on a7. I mean, this is scary.
Yes, but I think he shouldn't go now for a move like rook b1 to try to capture this bishop, because after rook b1, rook a6, bishop g4, black can just take it
Well,
and
there's also...
sacrifice the exchange.
Wait, which rook do you want to play to b1, Dayon?
Rook a b1.
Rook e or a?
Rook a. Rook
Rook
a
a.
b1.
Okay, yeah. So rook a b1, rook a6, and then what?
And then I thought bishop d4 to try to take this bishop, but this is wrong because he can take it with the bishop, and then
Yep.
after rook b5, this should be a draw, most likely.
Yeah, this endgame black can hold.
Yeah. For him, it's important to keep the pawn alive because this pawn is going to cost black at least the bishop, maybe even more.
Mm-hmm.
So that pawn will go to a7.
Yeah.
Then he is going to somehow swing the rooks over the c on the d file, and if he manages to trade one of the rooks, it's game over.
Yeah, well, we've got the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers in chat saying that their team, the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers, 0-4 in the first 4 weeks, are 1 point away from winning their first match. They have 7.5 points against the Lagos Leatherbacks going into the last round, so they'll need at least to score 1 and 3 to win their first match.
Great achievements.
Yeah. Similarly, the Portland Rain still has an edge in their match against Belgrade, so that could also be their first win. All right, so this position here, we're gonna see some technique here. We're gonna see how good a player of the French defense can be.
Yeah. Well, Tuam didn't have time to play the move e5 followed by bishop d4, which could have leveled the chances. Now bishop a5, a7, and rook c5 is a very strong positional threat. Without a pair of rooks, it's over. The rook is coming on b8. So bishop b6 only move, and now is this defendable or not?
Yeah.
Well, here white can still win the exchange with some funny rook c8 check, rook c8 queen, rook a8, and rook b8.
Oh,
the exchange.
You saw that fast, Dayon. Very nice.
But he doesn't want to take it.
But he doesn't want to do this. But
No.
I'm still going to show everybody what you said. I mean, that was GM speed, so people are going to need to see what you're talking about. The rook sack, in order to win back the rook, in order to do this thing to black. And the only way out of this for black is to trade his bishop for the rook and then try and defend this endgame. Sorry, bishop d4 is probably better. And again, you think that black can defend this endgame, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And Drev just made a very nice subtle move, rook e2, luring the pawn to go to e6, and then he wants to come back rook d2 and rook d7, and then take all the pawns on the 7th rank. So I think this is technically winning.
So here's what he's done here. He just traded straight up and rook c7, which seems like a good move. But again, the question was, can he then win this? And the answer, rook to e2, excellent move. And now you guys can see what Dan was explaining. He's trying to expand the 7th rank, get the e pawn to move up, so that he can then go rook d2 and rook to d7 and clean everything up.
Yep.
Another plausible defense, rook to e6, would lose to rook to b2.
No, simply rook e6 and send the king to b7. Win this rook.
Or you could win it technically. But rook b2 to b8 wins the rook, right? In like one move, no?
Oh, yeah. It wins.
Rook d6, rook here, rook d8, and then we double rooks on on the last. No, no, no. We go rook takes, rook b7, and there's no time to get the king out and the rook over. So rook e2 is played, and it seems like Dreyev is going to win this rook endgame. Nice.
Lars Brobakken is now a fan of Dreyev. He saw him moving the pawn before move 80, and he said that he is such a good technical player. Yeah.
Yeah, this rook e2 move, that's sweet. Nice to know that you can win like that. I'll have to use that trick one day.
News from Greg Shahade. Webster has already won their match against Ljubljana.
Yeah, that match was not as close as it was billed to be. And
rook e6 has been played in this game that we are following, David. So
I have a grand. Oh, he played it your way, Dejan. He didn't go win the rook.
Sorry, David. King to b7. This is technical. It's obvious. I mean, he doesn't need to think twice.
It's just like the other Dreyev game, right? Where you said he took all the pawns, and someone said, "What else would you do other than just win all the pawns and simplify if you're winning?" Well, I would calculate 3 moves and win a rook there, but no. Once he sees king to b7, he just doesn't even think anymore, huh?
Right.
Just does it.
Yeah, what first he will stop the counterplay here with this king getting in for the pawn.
Oh my gosh. So he's playing f4 to stop counterplay on the king side when he could have an extra rook. That's just, it's just a whole different way of playing, huh?
Yep. He can even play for, I think he's going to even play for Zugzwang, yes. After h5, he will play rook b7. And then the king has to go back. King e5, take the pawn, take the pawn,
king
take the
e5,
pawn.
king e6, take the pawn, take the pawn, take the pawn. Oh, man.
Now he will
Here he plays fg and h5, right, Dejan?
Yeah, without thinking. H5.
Yeah, more without thinking technical winning.
What's
this?
Sorry.
What's this?
Just took the pawn. King e5, king e6, king e7, go with the king to b7.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's just playing all the simplest moves, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, why to leave the pawn alive when this pawn can cost him the rook in the future? He's right. That's the way to do it.
Cool. I actually, funnily enough, Dejan, I just had like a grandmaster checking in with me and like chat on live chess, like asking what his team's score was. So like I told him like, yes, your team is ahead now. That's why I was like checking the scoreboard for a second. For everybody wondering about the scene switch. Okay, so this looking like a win for Igrok, and how are these San Diego guys doing so far? 5.5 to 2.5 over the Swashbucklers, with 1 point coming in here. Let's check on. Let's see if I can find Kachian. You know, because these guys might be closing in on the, you know, on a 5-0 record, basically. Whoa. Okay, Kachian's in a complicated situation. His rook on h3 is hanging. He's threatening checkmate on g7. This looks a little bit like how Rasmus Svein beat the Nom Nom factor in a previous game. I mean, very similar to another game we saw there.
David, before you continue with the analysis, just a very interesting question, which I am also very curious to know. If you know something, just let us know. What do these teams really have to do with the cities they are named for? Do the cities provide sponsoring money or something?
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting question. The cities, like the municipal governments, do not provide sponsoring money. By the way, Kachian just did exactly what I thought he would do here. He trades the queen off, takes the pawn, and he's got an edge in this endgame. But black's still active with control over the e-file. I guess it's not clear what will happen. But back to your question, or back to the question. The cities don't provide monetary support to the teams. The teams are named after the cities from which most of their players come. And every match, a team has to play 3 local players minimum out of 4 players. You can play 4 local players, but you can only play 1 free agent from another city. So every team is like rooted in the local chess community by the fact that they need to have a significant number of their players playing from their home city. And that's kind of the relationship.
Perfect. Thanks, David. I didn't know that one. That's very useful information.
Why did white not play queen g7 check? We've got a question. So I want to answer that question. It looks interesting. Queen g7 check. And the point is, on queen g7, hg7 check, king g7, he wants to play pawn takes c3 and win the rook. The reason that doesn't work is that in this position, when you're checking the king with your h3 rook, instead of taking on g7, black would play rook takes h3. Eliminating the check and your rook and all your hopes.
Nasty little spoiler.
Yeah. All right, so we get this endgame here. And
right now, Melik is on 43 seconds and going down under 40, and his opponent is on 12.5. Rasmus Svein.
Yeah.
Rook endgame.
So
solid.
Rasmus Svein had control over the e file. I think I like what Melik did technically, which was he switched his rooks from the king side because there was no more attack and took the other open file in the center, the d file.
I like Rasmus' position here, to be honest with you, David.
But
I think
black's
he's
still
already
doing
better.
fine, right?
I think he's better already. He will take
already.
the pawn on h6, and he has a distant pass pawn on the king side.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Melik didn't have to trade the knights.
Yeah, trading knights did not seem great for him. Oh, and they're playing fast now.
He also realized that one, he moved his rook back. Now he needs to move the pawns on the queen side as fast as possible so that he can eventually sacrifice a rook on the king side, but take the opponent's one on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Whoa, there's some pre-moves flying here.
Now I like white better.
Now you like white better? What
yeah,
changed?
Because when he takes the rook, he will have his king close to the pawn.
Okay, I guess so. I thought it's just like an equal position no matter what.
So most likely at the end it will end in a draw, but it's still good to like somebody better.
I guess so. Man, they're playing fast.
They are. C7 was better. C7 was Melik's move. Now he messed up.
Really?
Yeah, C7, because on rook C7, rook takes, it was... Okay, now he is most likely just losing this. Check first, check, and then take the pawn on e2 if he steps on the c file.
But he would have gone to e6.
Wait, king d7. Is this a draw? a5? Or... Yeah.
I mean, I'm basically just guessing here, but I'm thinking the game ends in a draw almost no matter what. But...
nice move by
Melik. Oh,
a4
when the king can't cross over yet.
Now black is winning.
Yeah.
He's taking the pawn. Now he's close to the pawn.
That's it. Okay, so it wasn't a draw no matter what. There was a real threat to win.
No, very few seconds on the clock for both of them. They spoiled this game a little bit, but there was a lot of suspense for sure.
Wow. So that gets Hamburg back in the match, huh? That closes the gap a bit there.
What is the
I think it's 5-7 now. So they're only down 2 points going into the last round. So things are not yet decided for the San Diego team here. I'm switching over to a game of Ruslan Ponomariov's for a moment here. Or do I want this one? Let me look at this one for a second. No. It looks like there's an extra queen. What?
No,
he didn't take it.
He's taking it back. He's taking it back.
Oh, so my goodness.
He just forced a draw. He forced a draw.
Do you guys see what I'm seeing with Mamedyarov against Mihawk? It looks like there was just a queen sack recently. Queen takes f4 check. Look at that move. That's unbelievable, guys. Queen takes f4 check. Amazing.
King h3.
King h3, keeping the game going. So materially, black will be up a pawn for a moment if they take, but c5's hanging, so not really.
And h5 is hanging.
And h5 is hanging. So actually, Mamedyarov still has a winning position despite all that.
Right.
So it was just exciting to see the queen sack and the knight windmills. But it looks, now that we take a more sober look, it looks like A really
The
big
draw has
advantage for
been
white still.
declined. So yeah, draw declined. No, there's a person whose name is draw declined. I got confused. I thought somebody can offer it a draw.
No draw even offered. Okay, so for those who are just joining us, Mamedyarov here playing white for the San Jose Hackers, who are ahead 7-6 at this point. If he can win this game, they get up to 8 points, get pretty close to winning this match. And it seems like he's in good shape here. And meanwhile, the other game I was going to go look at, the Ponomariov game, it looks like Ponomariov's probably winning pretty comfortably with an outside passed H-pawn.
Margevashvili has only 9 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, but Ponomariov's thinking it through pretty carefully.
Well, he has the luxury of thinking. He has 5 minutes on the clock, but I think Mamedyarov is our game at the moment with Mihok.
Yep.
Mihok is going to put a knight on d6, but will that be good enough for him to survive?
I mean, when you're down a pawn, you need more than one good square for a piece. You need some kind of counterplay, right? I mean, white has a d pawn and a pawn majority on the queen side, so you can't just like defend. You have to.
Well, putting the knight on d6 followed by knight e3 makes sense because you're getting this counterplay. You're attacking c4, b3, and d5.
Going after these pawns could be the way.
Right. That's why he's keeping the bishop. Now he wants knight e3 directly. Knight g to e3 maybe.
Yeah.
But on knight g to e3 there'll be d6. Whoopsie. No, it's not. Yeah, is it whoopsie? When he takes on c4, d7? No, knight back on e3. It's not working for white.
Block that rook. Well, then the move g4.
Oh, you mean after knight e3?
Yeah. Then the move g4.
Knight back into business.
Seems pretty good. So maybe instead knight c to d6, covering the e8 square and keeping the extra piece for the moment.
Now, g5 is quite an obvious move, but black has to watch out for the mini tricks on the diagonal and f6 square. It's going to be extremely difficult.
He played g5, why?
To take away the knight and take the pawn on d5 after that. It makes sense.
Oh.
He can take on d5 because on rook d1 there is rook e8. And on rook d5, oh, no, sorry.
Not quite. I mean, there's knight e3 here possibly.
Okay. That's easier.
And I mean, he still has some work to untangle these pieces.
It's such a typical play for...
There it is, rook c8. That's a good move.
For Shakriyar.
He plays it and offers a draw. He's maybe confident. But this was a good move, this rook c8. That was nice. He both spotted the hanging knight and the possibility of checkmate on c1. This is... And you know, the rook on d8 was his real problem here. Because that pin was leaving him really tied up. So after rook c8, Mamedyarov's going to have to find something smart. Something
What's the result
tricky.
of this match? San Jose 7-6. So this draw might be important.
Yeah.
7-6. It will be 7.5. There is still one game playing.
Yeah, there should be two other. There should be two other games still playing.
No, 7.5 to 6.5. Oh, they might be two other games.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can find them because they're not the top boards. I found one of them.
Which one?
It is, I am Ben Sabo against GM Chris Dictator Chirilla, and it is
Fitness Ben.
A complicated looking Grunfeld. Chirilla just won back the pawn on d4. And...
Well, if white wants to force a draw, he can always take on h6.
Just taking on h6 if white wants a draw. And I don't see any reason why I would really want a draw, though. That knight on h6 looks pretty bad to me. So I would expect the move bishop e3 here.
And after the trade of the rooks, bishop e5, you take on a7.
Or on
No,
h6.
you can't. No, on h6, that would be better. Right. Yeah.
So
But then, oh, he goes for the draw.
no
Are they
ambitions, huh?
leading? Are they leading the match?
No, his team is behind by a point, so I would have played greedier there as white, try and have some chance to win this one.
Mamedyarov is still waiting, so probably he's looking at the other boards, what's the result, and after that he will decide if he wants to take the draw or not. Very professional. Very professional by Mamedyarov. He can wait until he is down to 1 second to take the draw, not to take it.
I see. Draw offered, but Mamedyarov's just thinking to throw. Hasn't moved. So, all right, so...
Well, actually...
Yeah?
Well, wait. Chiril's game is not yet a draw. White is winning the pawn on a7.
Yeah.
So
well, I thought that black would keep the a pawn and lose the e pawn here.
That's what I thought too.
I thought he would play like a5 or something.
I don't really think.
But
oh, they agreed to a draw. Why?
White just offered a draw anyway.
Oh yeah, because the rook is coming on b2 and then bishop d4 would be an idea. So White can trade the rooks if he wants to.
I mean, when he traded off on h6, he gave up any chances at a win here. This is like a silly move. The knight on h6 is terrible, like absolutely horrible. If your team's down by a point, you can't trade this knight off and just give a draw. So now Mamedyarov accepted the draw. So you're right. He was just waiting for the team result.
8-6. So there is just 1 half point, and that's it. That's the half point that he was waiting for. They're winning the match.
Yeah.
But these two draws.
I have to quote Jan Ludwig Hammer here. He says, Budapest is down, but forces a draw on 2 boards where they are better. I didn't know whether or not Mihawk actually had the advantage here against Mamedyarov, but it looks like he's doing at least fine. And this one here with Ben Sabo against Chirilla, I mean, he's got a huge advantage until black fixes the knight on h6.
In the meanwhile, Ponomariov had won his game.
Yeah, he's won his game.
How about we switch to Ray Robson against Donatello? Looks pretty fun. Ray in his usual speed rate. He has 6 seconds on the clock at the moment.
6 seconds on the clock and 3 pieces on the diagonal with black's king.
And everything is hanging. So
and the rook on f1 hanging. The other thing.
He's checkmating. He's checkmating.
He's checkmating?
I think so.
Or check drawing.
Well, he's getting some time. Then he will checkmate rook g8. No, it's not checkmate. Queen is defending from a1 the g7 square. That's not fair.
He's also sacked a rook just to get here. So
he will make the draw.
He'll just take the draw now.
Well, should be reasonable if you have that little time.
Definitely. So this position here, how did this go? He played knight d4. And when black took the rook, sacking the rook, and then he was already down a piece before this. Wow, this must have been a crazy game. We'll have to review it another time. Probably an exciting one. But what we have now is we've got a game here between Kaden Troff and Sergey Movzezian I'm bringing up. And
yeah, let's go for it.
What about Seattle Sluggers against Dublin Desperados? I guess they'll have a 5-minute break, and then we can watch the next game of Ponomariov.
That's also an idea, yes. So we can also have a look.
We also have Gareev playing.
Yeah, he's attacking attack to meet you. Who's attack to meet you? I think this was Pascal Charbonneau. No.
Which one?
Attack to meet you. Never mind, it's not so important. Okay. He's playing with the white pieces. He's up in exchange, Gawain, down in exchange as usual. And
Gawain is down in exchange?
Well, that's very little for him.
Against attack
still better than a rook.
Oh my goodness, yeah, this is a normal situation. This pawn on f6 is a little bit of a wrinkle. He probably doesn't usually want that pawn there. Bishop h6 would be very strong if white didn't have g5, for anybody wondering about that. Very often when a queen comes to a2, the game is finished by the move bishop h6, but here g5.
It will be still finished, but in the opposite direction, I guess.
Yeah. And Gawain might be reluctant to take this pawn on f6 because of the queen coming into e6.
He would love to, but he wouldn't dare to. Or he did there.
Or
well,
he might.
He has to take it, actually. Queen e6, king g7.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to take on c3 and to deliver checkmate. How is he attacking now? g5 is a very serious threat. Queen d5 might be a threat as well.
Oh, he just played rook to h3 here, huh?
Defending c3, what can he do?
Okay. Well, he kept his bishop open at least, but what can he do? He can't play rook c8 because the queen's on it. Could he play queen to a3, king to d2, and pawn to d4? Just trying to open. Oh, he plays queen c4.
Yeah, he is preventing rook d5 because of queen f1 and the rook is hanging.
I mean, maybe this was another idea because white can't take it and black opens up some more here. Okay, so queen c4.
Well, he prevented also queen d5 because of rook a1 check, king d2, and the queen is hanging.
Okay.
And he's still threatening bishop c3. He prevented a lot of things and he's threatening some stuff.
Nice.
The good thing is that after rook f3, he's not getting checkmated after bishop c3, as his bishop is defending him on the log diagonal. And rook f7, queen f7, he can go king h8.
Ooh, overprotection of c3. The king gets busy. But it's not a very convincing move. I feel like the king's on the run now. Is queen f4 even playable?
Or even rook c8, bring this rook into the attack. Give me bishop c3 anyway.
Yeah, queen f4 is playable. I have this tactic that on queen e3 I can play bishop to c3 check.
Rook c8 is easier, yeah. Bring the rook into the action.
You rather just bring the rook into the game either way? Okay, he did. So now who's going to defend c3 next?
There's nobody. Queen e3 doesn't really look nice. There will be d4 coming. At least, and even simple queen g4 should be good enough for black. Oh, looks horrible for white.
Yeah, suddenly horrible, right? He just can't fight Gawain's dark squared bishop once again. So, yeah, you guys see the score up here for this match? This is London Towers 2.5 against Toronto Dragons 5.5, halfway through. So they've played 2 out of 4 rounds. Razvan Preotu's team, the Dragons, are actually ahead by 3 points, and Gawain looking to score a big point with black here to try and keep his team in the match.
The Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers won their match 8.5 to 7.5. Yeah, very close.
All right, the first
very
win.
Close matches today.
The first win for the Pawn Grabbers, 8.5, 7.5. Phew, that's close.
They should be shouting it out in the Twitter. Are they? Nothing yet there. Just Eric Hansen's proud tweets. What are you so happy about, David?
I'm not happy. I'm just laughing. I liked how you called it proud tweets.
Rook d3. Okay.
All right.
Capture.
He's like, sure, I'll take the pawn on c3 with check opening the king. Why not?
And then I'll go back to f6.
Go back to f6 with the idea of taking on c2.
Or just rook E or rook f8. Rook f8, perhaps. Yeah, rook
Mm-hmm.
f8 is a very nasty move.
Mm-hmm. I was just looking at the same one. So it stops queen d5 for sure because of queen g4. And it just sort of starts to tie up the king, right? Take control of all the squares around him.
Mm.
Rook f8, maybe rook f1 as a defense, Dejan?
Oh, I didn't consider this one, honestly.
This might avoid disaster. I think if white could trade one rook, then they wouldn't actually be in much danger of losing.
He needs to trade one rook, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying they would immediately become better or anything, but it wouldn't look like they were getting checkmated. So
That was a very important resource, David. I didn't see that one coming.
yeah, me neither at first.
Can he
Okay.
somehow bring the rook into the attack? This is the question.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, so it's Razvan Prioto who is playing with the white pieces, the
yeah.
youngest Canadian grandmaster.
No wonder he's on Twitter so much. He's young. He's a social media generation, huh?
Really?
I don't
Is
know.
it for young people only?
They're more likely to know how to do that or spend their time there.
Oh, you don't know how to make tweets? I'll teach you, don't worry.
I know how. Okay. So he's thinking
New
quite a bit
Jersey
here, Coin.
knockouts have won against the Appledorn Apes. Appledorn Apes didn't have a very good tournament, I think. Anytime that I was commenting on their games, they were losing, even though they seem like quite a reasonable team.
Mm-hmm.
San Diego Surfers need 1.5 points from the remaining 4 games to wrap up the match against Hamburg's Swashbucklers.
Yeah, 7-5 going to the last round. We'll definitely be watching a game or two from that match. In fact, why don't we glance at Kacyan's position for a moment right here,
Let's go for
where
Melik.
he's playing black against Tuan Berg.
Mm.
Because it looks like he's a little committed on the king side over here with a knight on h3 that seems, kind of stuck. Like he's trying to get it out through f4 by pinning the g pawn to the king. Yeah, let's see. Materially, Dejan, there's an extra pawn for black at the moment, but it really depends on getting this knight out from h3. I had a sense, even when I saw the opening of this game, that it was going to get pretty aggressive.
Who, Melik?
This Melik game, yeah, because on move 11, in this position here, he'd played this kind of aggressive move, knight takes e4.
These two, they're very aggressive players, anyway.
I'm going to show this as a little flashback for everybody. This was like a pretty key moment in the game. The point of this knight e4 move, I think, was that on d-e4, he would have played queen f6 and win back this piece on f3. Right. Or force some kind of weird queen sack with knight takes d4. So that
just 2 pieces, not much.
Yeah. So he played that knight e4 move, and at that point I realized things were probably going to be crazy in this game. White fought back with h3, trying to win back the pawn on b7 when this knight moves. But you can just feel that this is, that it's headed towards an aggressive game sometimes when you see the tactics start coming and, the players haven't predicted everything that could happen. So here, what we just saw, setting the stage here, was Melik wants to play knight to g5. And then that'll help him attack the white king on the light squares, or force white to open the f-file, which is also not desirable. So white plays f4 to try and prevent knight g5, and now they're sort of in at all costs. And I guess Twanberg just didn't find any way to stop knight f4 from being good. King h2 must not have worked after queen h5 or something. Yeah. Maybe something like this was the problem. That he just can't stop this from coming out.
Sorry for laughing, but I just saw that one of the members here is named Feingold, probably after Ben Feingold.
Right.
But he's Feingold. I think I like his name better than Ben's name, and and that was a good one. Anyway, Milik is just up a pawn, I believe, and
Yeah,
he
so
also
he
has
comes
the
out up a
predominant
pawn.
piece.
And now he's
Active
got the e
rooks.
file too.
He's just winning this one, isn't he?
Should be winning, yeah. I mean, Twan is going for some counterplay there, but if his pieces are passive, I don't think it's going to amount to very much. That's my 2-second interpretation of what happens.
But there is nothing else that he can do, so he just needs to push the pawns.
Makes sense to push those pawns. Give Melik something to worry about at least. And he's doing it fast too. You see, he's still like ahead on time. So he's trying to make things not so easy for Melik.
You remember this game that we were about to see Ken and Trov playing against the game of Movsesian? Well, it's over. Movsesian won. There's no need to see it.
Nothing to see here already.
Nothing to see here, yes. But Ponomariov has a crazy game against Gabriel Sargsyan at the moment, and I suggest that we switch to this one.
Okay. This game here that I just popped in on is about to be over. It's Timur Gareev against Justin Tan. Timur Gareev playing for the Desert Rats of Las Vegas.
Excuse me for a second. I need to grab some water, please.
Okay. Yeah. So Gareev playing for the Desert Rats. The Desert Rats started out with a bad record, but they're actually quite a strong team. So let's see. Let's see what happens here in this crazy queen endgame.
I'm back.
Queen takes e5. It looks like that works out. King f4, queen f8, queen h6. Is this a draw? Queen h2 mate. It's not a draw. Oh. I had a feeling we were going to see a random checkmate. That's why I stayed on this despite your recommendation. Nice checkmate, Timur. That was sick. It really looked like with 10 seconds like he'd blundered the e5 pawn. I don't know if he could have calculated this whole thing, but maybe he did. There's just a whole bunch of different variations to calculate.
But when he gave a similar mate some time ago, but
yeah,
from the other side.
So did you want me to go to Ponomariov? Is that what you suggested? Okay, I'm going. Now that we've seen that, I am on Ponomariov's game. Whoa. Nice one. Very weird.
I guess this is also a very important result, very important game for their teams.
Yeah. Yeah, because so Ponomariov is playing for the Dublin Desperados here, and they're down 1 point to the Seattle Sluggers. Arm Akiba here is Grandmaster Gabriel Sargsyan of the gold-winning Armenian team.
So I guess that his name means Armenian Akiba, Akiba Rubinstein, which comes to underline the fact that he is a great positional player. And he's also famous for his very solid white color. So I guess that...
So the Armenians are all playing as free agents. They don't have an Armenian team. But, you know, we've got Movsesian and Sargsyan as like recent hires for some of these other teams. And this is a very aggressive opening chosen by Ponomariov. I mean, it's hard to even imagine exactly how he got to this. Let's see. He played a Benoni. Okay, bad idea, but I approve.
Why is it the bad idea, David?
Because it's bad for black. It's just so much suffering. Okay, immediately gets weird. F pawn, G pawn. Whoa! This exchange on move 12 is pretty weird. And now the position kind of makes sense now that I see how they got here. All right. Yeah, Ponomariov flying the Spanish flag here. Some people are asking about. He actually lives in Spain.
He's married to a Spanish girl.
That'll do it.
That usually does it, yes. Not a
That,
bad choice, actually. Spain is one of the best countries ever, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. I've never been, but I guess I
Oh,
should.
you're missing back. You should.
So I'm unimpressed by White's bishop on f1, and I feel like Ponomariov has some counterplay for Black here. Not counterplay, some play. Just straight up some play here. I thought he was going to go maybe knight b6, but what's queen e4 all about?
B3, queen takes A4, queen E1 checkmate for starters, maybe.
Okay, so looking at playing b3 himself here.
I think this might do the job. Or queen C4 first and trade the queens.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to do something, otherwise his opponent is going to open the center and checkmate his king in the middle.
What? How's Black going to get checkmated? I don't see the threat.
E4, White was going to play E4 himself.
E4. Okay.
Yeah. And then bishop to H3. Rook
So like
E1,
if I played
checkmate.
knight b6, White plays e4, they're covering knight c4 and trying to just blow open the e file in some way.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that makes sense. Got to do
Your
something.
king is in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I would play knight takes a4 and just try and trade queens on b2 while getting 3 connected past pawns. That would be my attempted defense.
Now you're talking very complicated stuff at the end of this of this 4-hour show.
Yeah.
Let's try to keep it simple.
All right. Queen to e4, and White played queen to e3, so I can't even tell which of them wants to trade queens more. But it feels like we're going to trade queens here.
Very solid. When you take on e3, how are you going to recapture? With the bishop or with the pawn?
I think he's going to let White take on e4. He's not going to take on e3. But if he took on e3, I would take back with the bishop, because I'm not messing up my pawn structure.
So you like to attack, but you want to keep your pawns intact.
Yes. It's easier to attack when your structure is good. Yeah, so they trade on e4 instead.
And now he's losing this pawn. Why didn't he keep this pawn? Bishop g2, bishop e4.
Because he'd rather he'd rather go for his counterplay like this on the queen side. And Sargsyan doesn't even go for e4. He's going for bishop to e6 and maybe a checkmating attack somehow.
No. He's going for the e4 pawn, but he will do it after bishop h2, rook g4, rook e4.
Got
That's the way
it.
that he's going to take it. You like Ponomariov's position here?
No, not at all.
No, also bishop g4, bishop h5 is coming. Maybe
No.
bishop f5, bishop e6. This bishop can go anywhere. Didn't you mention that this bishop is not a good piece? Were you kidding back then?
It wasn't a good piece.
There is no bad bishop, David. You know that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's the problem here for Black is there's just no use of his rooks. Like neither rook doing anything, and now White's more coordinated. I don't know what he's seeing on the queen side.
Rook b8, rook b4, rook e4, rook e1, checkmate. This is what he's trying to do. He's bringing rook out.
But the king has d2, and that takes like 12 moves.
Sort of. Okay, the other idea. C4, knight c5, knight takes a4.
Okay, also rook to g4, rook b8, rook e4, and you can't even play rook b4, right? And your plan was rook g4, wasn't it? Or that was one of your plans?
That was one of my plans, and I think he will do it now.
Rook g4 is a pretty good one. And it also answered that c4 idea, right? Rook g4, c4, rook e4, knight c5, rook takes c4. Also fine for White. To just collect everything.
Yeah, but there might be some drawbacks to this move.
Someone suggests the c4, c3 plan for Black here. And coincidentally, rook g4 also stops that plan, because rook g4, c4, rook e4, c3. Pawn takes c3. And the bishop's pinned. You can also ignore the pawn on c3 and play f4, winning the bishop, and also decreasing the c-pawn threat.
Also, f4 here makes very good sense. When you take it, you take back with the pawn followed by f4, and you're clearing the e file, and then you will go rook e1.
Yeah. Well, if you play f4, Black's going to play bishop d4. He will definitely never open the e-file willingly.
Yeah, you have a point. I agree with you.
Yeah. So we go like f4, bishop d4. Oh, he played it. So let's see. Let's see what the idea is on bishop d4. Is it an exchange sacrifice?
You mean rook d4?
Yeah. Or does he just play rook g3 and then play e3 next? What does
probably
he
the
do?
latter. Yeah, probably the latter. Rook g3
I
and
think
then
just rook
he will
g3.
go. Yeah.
And then something like rook b8, e3, bishop to g7, bishop h4. Kind of trapping that dark squared bishop on a very long diagonal.
Or maybe just bishop f5, take the pawn on e4. Does he have time for this? I mean after rook g3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could go for bishop f5. What I was suggesting, I'm just showing people some of the moves, would be bishop h4, threatening rook g7, and this bishop's really having some issues there. Bishop f5, come to e4. After bishop f5, black has rook to b4.
Yeah,
And it's,
yeah, I saw that one.
they're getting a little counterplay there. Let me just check if they've made any moves. Nope, f4. Ruslan's having a good think about f4.
Do we have results in their match yet?
This game is feeling really weird and unpredictable. I wanted to say that, like, I wanted to guarantee that white would win because of the position of the black rooks. And now I'm feeling a little confused.
Belgrade Sparrows ended their match against Portland 3 in 8-8.
Wow. Come back.
That is the match of the day.
Nice. Close one. Melik is in a queen endgame. Melik is in a queen endgame. It does not look clear at all. Because white has this a pawn that's really close to queening. I think that Melik can only play for a draw here when white has the pass pawn that's much closer to queening.
Gawain Jones found a way to checkmate his opponent.
You're right, he did. Let's see the checkmate. Okay, so we had this kind of position.
He dropped the bishop back and he opened the c file, and then after c3 he finally made use of his rook. It came on the second rank. Actually, he didn't even have to come on the second rank.
Oh, he finally crossed all the diagonals and files, and the white king just got caught. That's a nice game positionally, just down in exchange, but the king could never find somewhere to hide. That's how a lot of those exchange sacks go in the French.
Did you see that Twan Borg has just declined to draw the draw of Melik? He got a lot of counterplay indeed, and now he is really playing for a win himself with this pawn on a6. He is not risking much.
Yeah, there's like no way to lose for white. Like absolutely no way, right?
But he was so much losing. How did this all happen?
Yeah.
So the a pawn finally, the b pawn actually finally. Oh, b, c pawns. These pawns were moving forward. Wow, what a game. What a game that was.
c5, whoa. d3, rook e5, and then the c pawn. Oh no, craziness. What the?
Melik is on 18 seconds. Is he? Are the boards moving? Let me refresh.
Yeah. It looks like he's been checking him for about 10 moves without any real change, but I don't know. These queen end games are really hard to calculate when you're low on time because there's just so many different moves to play.
Well, in the game of Ponomariov, white has sacrificed the exchange on e3 at the moment, and he's attacking with the two bishops. Regisian, he has very strong attack.
Okay, so f4, bishop d4, rook g3 played so far, then e3 by black to stop e3 from white, and that's why he sacks in exchange. And look at those bishops. It looks like a massacre. But is it? But is it?
Two bishops and a rook attacking bishop e7, followed by bishop e6, and then the rook on the g and the h.
Those
Or even
rooks are
take on,
so bad.
or even take that
I
pawn
think
on this side.
I think here you play bishop h6 check.
Is this checkmate? If king g8, it's going to be checkmate. If king
Yeah,
f7, it's
if king
going to be
f7,
checkmate.
it's not. Yeah, okay, so he goes to e7 then.
And now if the king steps on f7, there'll be bishop takes d6 and bishop e6 always if they take on d5. That's why
Right.
he's stepping g7.
Yeah, you can't go here because you want to be able to bring the knight into the game, and you can't allow this check.
Yeah, but now bishop e6 is cutting the king away, then rook g3 followed by bishop.
Sorry, misclicked everybody. Chase the king to h6 and then try and checkmate him there.
It would be easier than if it is on g7, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, also your bishop on e6 locks out the knight on b6. So he played it. He played bishop e6.
Which is an additional bonus, yeah.
That traps the king and the knight, basically. And I think the sluggers are about to take another point off of the desperados, and they're ahead 8-5. So that would pretty much win the match for them.
Yeah, this looks like a forcing win. Rook g3 check, king h6, bishop g5 check. If he comes back on the g file, bishop d8 check and takes the knight. And if he goes up,
Nice.
he should be checked.
And if he goes where?
If he goes up, if he goes on h5, bishop f7 is checkmate.
Yep. So that is a forcing line. It has just been played. So you can just play bishop g5 check, and this game is done. Done. Well, at least that makes sense. the player with two rooks that couldn't move didn't somehow win.
Okay, f5 and f6 was also a line, but this one is easier. Just take the knight, and you think after that you still have the very strong attack plus material. Why would you need to go for f5 when you can do this?
Yep, this is a position where even I wouldn't calculate for anything else. I would just take that knight and wait for the resignation.
Still, it doesn't seem like this is going to help the Dublin Desperados because the result is 8-5 at the moment. Well, actually, this is going to finish the Dublin Desperados. Excuse me. Yeah. So this is going to be the end of this match.
And the San Diego Surfers have just won their match. Melik just got a draw here against Tuan Berg in this queen endgame. In the end, he managed to get his king close enough to the A pawn to hold with the stalemate when the queens trade. And the San Diego Surfers are now 5-0 atop the entire league.
The San Jose Hackers had won their game 7-5 against the Budapest team.
All right, so remaining close matches. There's Toronto against London. And we also have the Desert Rats playing. So this is probably a big match. As you guys see, they're popping up on the screen, the resignation of Ponomariov. There's a point, another point for the Sluggers, and they officially beat the Dublin Desperados.
Let's go to Tesla against Timur Gareev, David.
So here we are. Tesla against Gareev. Movzezian versus the Desert Rat. The Desert Rats with a sizable 3-point lead, but the match is not yet over. And we've got a Rui Lopez, where white developed his dark squared bishop? Wow. That's great. I always used to lose in the Rui Lopez because I would develop my bishop, and then people would say, like, nope, you have to leave it on c1. You lost because you brought it out. So, interesting to see Movzezian with his bishop out. And it's also interesting to see this queen on f8. I don't usually see that either.
Yeah, but if it is on d8, what white is doing, he jumps with the knight on f5, then takes on h6 and checkmates on g7. That's why
Mm-hmm.
the queen is there.
The queen's here in advance to try and stop these checkmates and even these bishop sacks.
Yeah, but this one, isn't it allowing a capture on e5 followed by a knight h5 trick, then take on g7 with slight advantage for white?
So let's say we trade there and then go knight h5. Going after this and going after the piece it's defending. So there's no move
But it's
other
not,
than knight takes h5 really, then queen d7. And
it's not a big deal.
how big an advantage does white have? Not so
Knight back
much.
to f6.
Not so much.
And back to f6. Guys, keep on asking questions. We
Yeah.
are getting a little bit sleepy, or at least me, David. I don't know about you, but it's a bit late here.
I know,
So guys,
Dejan. You're one of the biggest troopers of this league. Nobody knows, but everybody gets to play in their time zone except for you. All the players, all the commentators, and Dejan's always commenting in the middle of the night.
not always today's okay, but when
Today's not as bad, but usually.
yeah, the first day from 1 to 4, that was tough.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
Actually,
Timur, yeah.
actually, the next day, Danny asked me if I want to do it from 4 to 7, and I said, no, please have mercy.
4 a.m. to 7?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, how was the 1 to 4 shift? How about 4 to 7 next week? Just kill me. Just kill me. Yeah. So, what do you think of G5 by Gareev?
G5 is Gareev.
Forcing the issue. Is that an acceptable move, or is that too big a weakness?
Well, I think it looks like an acceptable move for the time being.
Okay.
At least at a glance. Because this bishop from c2 is getting blocked.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it looks alright.
I mean, the question is basically if at some point white would have h4 and it would be a big problem or not.
The real question is, what is this bishop going to do to black? This one that came on b3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because now, as soon as there was a pawn on f5, you guys see how fast that these players like adjust positionally, right? As soon as there's this trade on f5, you see Gareev switching the diagonal for his bishop, and then Movsesian switching the diagonal for his, right? They each immediately recognize to adjust that piece as it becomes worse.
Yeah, and obviously with the pawn on g5, he has to be very careful, because now a move like king g7 can be already answered with bishop g5, and then white is just winning.
Yep. So one example of the risk of the g5 move. I'm also feeling like the awkward rook on b8 is a major problem, Dejan. It's keeping him from playing variations like, you know, trading on d4, trading a rook, and then playing rook to e8, and trying to sort of simplify out of his difficulties.
Yeah.
Oh, he moved it off. This he always has to be careful. I assume it was on b7 because he's worried about tactics where you go d e5, you know, and then lose your bishop on e5. So, but okay, he's played rook to b8, and presumably on pawn takes e5, he can trade on e3, right?
He needs to trade on
needs
e3,
to.
otherwise he's losing.
He attacks the queen, so he doesn't lose to pawn takes knight, and then like rook here and probably rook e5.
Oh, but he's losing a pawn after queen e7, giving the pawn on e6 and the one on c7. Oh, but probably he has queen c8, defending everything.
So Dejan's thinking of taking on e3 with the queen, and then going to a7 with the queen. That's an interesting little penetration. And then you said queen c8 might defend it all.
Might defend it all, but it might not defend it all, because then rook e5, pawn takes e5, queen c5 is coming from the other side now. Give me the bishop, give me the pawn on e5.
Yep. Yeah, all kinds of trouble. That queen is getting into some of those weaknesses. This position's feeling hard for black to hold together, actually. I mean, maybe he can give a pawn and keep going. Maybe that's not the end of the world.
I think we're going to learn this very, very soon, because this is exactly what's happening.
It just happened, Dejan.
Yeah, I know. I'm sleepy, but still attentive, David.
Yeah. When you get sleepy, it means like you might talk a little bit slower, but your brain is still calculating all the chess stuff.
I'm pretending at least it does.
Okay, so should black throw in rook e1 check to avoid that queen c5 move, maybe?
Probably has to, yes.
But that allows rook to e7, which might be even worse. Uh-oh, let me just check. I'll just put it on the board so I'm not talking too far ahead of everybody. So here, threats on f7 and c7 could be grim. Yeah. Yeah, I think rook e7 is decisive there. So let's see. Okay, so black played queen c8, leaving the rook on e5. And now we would expect Movsesian to continue playing your variation. If he played into this, it means he spotted it all in advance. That's how it goes. You know.
But there is queen e8, which I didn't spot, which is defending everything. But then rook e1.
Okay, so this line continues. Queen e8 covers two more things. We could go back to a7 and make a repetition, right? Or rook to e1.
I don't really think that he'll be happy with the repetition.
No, I was just pointing it out that it would be kind of funny that white draws by this like weird double attacks on the weaknesses with the queen. So rook to e1, and now e4?
e4, but then after f3, you're just losing that pawn, right?
e4, f3, and we still can't save him, huh? Too bad, too sad.
But maybe he can try to launch some counterplay after that with some rook coming on d8. But I'm quite suspicious about black's position.
Yeah, it's definitely looking suspicious. Okay, queen e8 has been played by Timur. I mean, he's defending as he can. So far, the g5 move hasn't been an issue. The issue has been like untangling that rook on b7 in time before white, pokes at all these weaknesses here.
Right.
All right, let's see what else is going on. The Buenos Aires Krakens have beaten the Reykjavik Puffins. And Toronto versus London, still a big advantage for Toronto, 8-5. They're half a point away. Rook e1 and e4 are played. So, yeah. This seems very bad for black, I think. I mean, white's bishop is better than black's at this point, and black's queenside is clearly like slightly weaker than white's, and the white queen is on a great square. So Sergey doesn't even go after the e-pawn. He just switches to taking the d file, and
That's a very nice. Yeah.
He's got almost paralysis, huh?
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
All he needs to do now is to bring this knight into the game. So maybe he will go knight f1, knight e3, or knight e2, knight e4, and Timur knows that, and he's sacrificing the pawn at once. He knows how bad it can get, and he's just throwing it up now.
Yeah, it doesn't want to let that happen, huh? So it's desperate. I mean, and he doesn't have many moves. I mean, what moves would even improve his position? I guess knight e4.
Actually, quite a nasty move. Well, he has to take it, obviously, right? Followed by rook d2.
Yeah, I was just trying to calculate bishop f7 for a moment, but I think after king f7, it doesn't lead anywhere. So...
Well, he doesn't want to take it, though. Maybe he was calculating some queen d4, queen f6 ideas as well. They did exist there. Oh, but now, after rook d2, there might be rook d8 coming. Oh, Timur is going for this counterattack.
Yeah, he's really getting active. I mean, all white's trumps are suddenly not being focused on, right? As black activates. Queen e4 has been played. This is the live position. So with queen g2 threatened, the moves for white are either bishop d5 or rook to d2. Pretty much that's it, right?
Yeah, bishop d5 looks safer. So I think he will play bishop d5. He also has 7 minutes on the clock. So, but bishop d5, rook e8.
Yep.
And how is he defending on e3? Most likely this is going to end in a draw.
Right. I mean, it seems like Black's position, whether or not he immediately wants to take on e3, it seems like Black's position has enough resources and activity here that White's not going to cover all his weak pawns on e3 and f5 and his king.
Oh, David, what am I talking about? Rook
Yeah.
d8 he takes with a check. Rook d8 check. That's ridiculous.
True. That's true. So rook d2 was played, and there's no rook to d8 here because of rook d8 check. So in the game, he just played his rook to e8, attacking on e3, but also I think possibly introducing a threat of rook to e5, attacking White's queen and capturing the pawn on f5. And then, honestly, Black might have the advantage after rook e2, rook e5. I mean, if he doesn't even have anything worse with queen d3 or something, but rook to e5 seems to be enough to claim an advantage for Black. What about queen b1 check? What happens there? Oh, his bishop on c6 is still hanging. Okay, so
if I was following the chat closer, people would have told me, oh, well in advance that I'm blundering a rook with rook d8. Yes.
Oh, yeah? Cool.
Yeah.
Good job, people.
Let's see what is going to happen next. Now, of course, there is always queen b1 check and queen b3 idea, but then White is going to take the bishop on c6 back and has an active queen.
So I'm thinking rook e5 here, and White can't play queen a7 because of queen b1 to b3. So they have to go like queen d4, and then Black can take on f5, and I think Black has the advantage.
Oh no, there is rook f2 idea. You have to be careful. So this is losing because of bishop takes f7 check, and you cannot take it with the king because of rook f2. And if you take it with the queen, there will be queen e5.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, you can show it to the guys if you want.
Okay, so queen f5 here we would lose to bishop f7. Queen
Not
f7,
really
queen
lose,
e4.
but he will take the pawn back after.
It would mess up,
queen, Queen d4 here. It's more or less the only move, right?
Yeah. So after queen d4, the other option is to play queen b1 check, king to h2, and then you can't play rook f5 because of bishop c2, but you can play queen f5 now because there isn't rook f2 anymore.
Yeah, queen d4 has been played. I am not sure if he even has a choice. Maybe he just has to take on f5. But
yeah, I mean, he could always play rook f5, right? That would be a simple move. He can go rook f5 or queen b1, queen f5.
But on rook f5 there is queen d8. No, there is no queen d8 check and bishop to c2 because on queen d8 there will be queen e8. But then he can take on c7, regaining the pawn still. Queen b1 did.
Oh, bishop c2. Bishop c2. Bishop c2, queen to d5, and then queen c7. And Black's still down a pawn, but still has compensation. So
queen b1 has been played.
Queen b1's played, yeah. So that's getting rid of the rook f2 tactic.
Right.
And now, how does he take back on f5 with his rook? Well, Timur's playing he's really keeping up in a game that looked like it was going to be very tough for him. His e3, I mean, this is like a really, really good lesson here. I mean, if you guys look at this position, it looks like Timur is nearly out of moves, nearly zugzwanged. White's just got to improve the knight on g3, and then basically it's like almost talking about whether or not you resign. With one move e3, he just turns around the game just by getting active.
Okay, bishop c2, queen f1 is coming just in time. Bishop f5, queen e2, and he's safe. Or he's taking the pawn back at least. I'm not sure if he's safe, but he has taken the pawn back. Maybe Musician will go for this and then play some e4 move. Not sure about this, but...
e4 here?
No. After bishop c2, queen f1, bishop f5, queen e2, e4, something like this.
Uh-huh.
as
Something
an
like
idea.
this. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he missed
Yeah.
this resource, and he thought that bishop c2 is just winning, and that's normal. But then he realized queen f1, and he had to think again.
Yeah.
And yeah, now he's
This
going for this line.
this approach locks out the bishop on c6 for the moment, so it seems pretty good for white. Oh,
But
and
the
he's
thing
just
is
done
that
all of that. Okay.
yeah, but the thing is that black can always go queen f1 and try to do some perpetual. It's not that easy. There is queen d8 check followed by queen c7 defending the diagonal. Aha. So yeah.
So if we go here looking for maybe a perpetual, Dejan points out the queen comes to c7 and covers queen f4.
Yeah, so e4 is a very tough move for black. Very difficult.
Yeah, he actually got his bishop like locked out of things.
Yeah, and also queen d8 is a threat that you cannot really stop. And after queen d8 and queen c7, if you take on e4, there is queen e5 check, and I take your bishop.
Right. Like if I sit here with queen e1, it will show that Dejan points out you can't get the pawn back on e4 because of queen e5 check. So, what to do? What to do? Black's in a pickle. Suddenly their bishop, queen, and king are all split up from each other. And they can't coordinate, right?
Yep.
Could he play maybe like a... I mean, I'm not much of a defender. Could he play maybe a desperate move like queen c4? Trying to reestablish some connection between the pieces, right? The queen covers f7 and c6. And if white...
Still, can't he just give the check again, take on c7?
Yeah, if he goes and takes on c7, I was thinking to maybe take on c3. But I'm losing to bishop d7. Yeah.
So what's the point of this one? Oh, he probably... Does he want to trade the queens? I don't think so. I don't think that he wants to trade them. Because if he trades the queens, there'll be always bishop e8 coming, and he'll be losing the pawns on a6 and b5. Yeah. So check, queen c7 will happen.
Yeah.
And then I doubt that Timur wants to trade the queens. If he doesn't want to trade the queens, what is he going to do?
I think he's going to trade the queens.
No, but his bishop is not hanging.
Oh, he didn't trade them. So he came to c4. He could have come here in one move. So queen f1 first. Okay. Now the move bishop d7 should... Oh.
He just takes...
He just takes the bishop then, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't do anything now because his queen's defended. He trades the bishop and takes on c3 or e4. It doesn't even matter.
But check and queen d4 looks very solid for white. Oh.
Right. Just defending his pawns and staying ahead of pawn and keeping his advantages.
And even queen f6 or queen d6 moves.
Yeah.
Some nasty little tactics like queen d6, and if he takes on e4, queen b8 check, king g7, queen e5 check. Sorry, queen e4 after that, that's it.
Yeah, same old thing. Black just doesn't have many... White has a lot of tactical resources here based on the black king's position that he can always rearrange it with checks and so on.
Queen d4 he played. Maybe queen d6 was safer. But
yeah.
This one should also
So now I would say queen f1.
Oh, that's a mouse slip.
It's a mouse slip. He was going to f1.
Obviously, yeah. Obviously, yes, but...
Yeah.
He was perhaps losing there too.
All right. So another big point for the Lions. They need all of them they can get because Las Vegas has 8 points.
First time that they see a mouse slip at this tournament, to be honest with you.
Oh, I saw a bad one, but yeah, this is my second, I guess. All right. Let's see what's still going on at this point. It looks like a lot of the matches are being decided at this point. We've got Caden Troff playing here as black, and he is down 3 pawns.
Which game are we following?
Pawns. Caden Troff as black against Justin Tan.
Just a moment to get there.
Yeah, it's hard to even count them. He's down 3 pawns, and He's got 13 seconds against a minute 30.
That's also typical Caden. He's always in time trouble. The most painful game to watch is the one between Caden Trough and Ray Robson at the USA Championships. It's like, both
Yeah,
of them under 1 minute after 15 moves and the pieces are flowing of left and right. Very painful.
yeah. Looks like pretty much all the matches are decided now. Toronto Dragons held on to beat London Towers 8.5, 7.5. A lot of really close matches there. The Buenos Aires Krakens, who are an extremely strong team, barely beat the Puffins 8.5, 7.5. That's a close match. So with almost everything wrapped up, this will be maybe the last endgame that we examined today. And does Caden have enough counterplay here to bother white? Ooh, that's a nice move, actually.
David, people are praising you. They say that you're better than Chuck Norris. How come?
Yeah, I know. Actually, this bishop e2 move wasn't that good. Black's got enough counterplay here. Why not the move f5 there? That was the right move, right? f5. Oh, then the rook has e6. Okay. So he changed his mind and decided he did want to take the pawn on g3. Oh, he's just going back to it. I see the rook defends it, chases the rook, comes back to g3. Okay. He can also, in this position, he's playing bishop c5. He can also try and take on g3, but then the opposite bishops come off, and it's a rook endgame that he loses. So this is good. He keeps going for chasing this piece.
How is he playing for a win now? That's very, very nasty.
Who's playing for a win?
I don't know, wait. I think if you're up 3 pawns, wouldn't you play for a win?
You would think so, but he doesn't seem to have a way to cover everything. He's struggling to try and cover everything, and that's a threefold repetition. Caden can claim it there. Yeah.
Well, wasn't he playing for a win after bishop g4 check? f5 and rook e2 after bishop g6? Wasn't this an attempt for a win?
So after bishop d6 to play bishop g4 check.
Yeah, we have to play f5. And then I go rook e2. Well, otherwise I will just bring my pieces out. I'll go rook e3 and rook f3, I guess. And I will...
Yeah, this
I'm
definitely...
3 pawns up. Yeah, I think he missed this one. And he was also very long time.
I mean, he can reduce the damage from 3 pawns to 2 here by trading on e2 and taking on g3. It still looks like kind of a losing position, or very, very tough to try and defend. But bishop g4 check, he can't move his king because what? Rook e3?
Sorry, where are you up to?
Like after bishop g4 check, what if black plays king to d8?
Rook e3.
Rook e3. And then he plays bishop c5 again. Oh, and then you come to f3 and there's no perpetuals.
Yes, that's the idea.
Aha. I get it, Dejan.
Getting away from the free time repetition.
Yeah.
3 pawns to 3 pawns.
Because originally white brought his bishop to e2 to stop this repetition, people. See this one? So Dejan has found a way to bring the white rook to f3, and that stops these... That covers these f-file squares and stops the repetitions, and then white can proceed with winning. I think you're right, Dejan. I think this bishop g4 move looks like it gives white a very good chance to win this one.
So many close matches indeed. First time they are so close. 1 draw 8 to 8, 2 8.5 to 7.5 matches. The others not really huge margins, not really huge wins for the stronger sides. 7.5. Okay, there is just one. Did you see this one? The Khan Blockbusters lost 3-13 to Rio Grande Ospreys.
Yeah,
is this for real?
I didn't see any of those games, but Khan was supposed to be a strong team.
They're a very strong team.
Let's see what their lineup was today.
I think Mathieu Cornet played a game.
All right, Khan Blockbusters. Yeah, they were playing a 2476 FIDE average team with 2 GMs and then an IM and an FM.
Yeah, Robert Fontaine played for
Perfectly
the
good
Count
team.
Blockbusters. Wow, what a washout.
Yeah. But you know, I think part of it might have been that Stukopin was playing. Um, and it was
Is
his
he a beast?
debut. And he's supposed to be quite good. Yeah, he was, and he scored 4-0, Dejan. I'm looking at the results here.
Stukopin,
Stukopin was playing his first match for Rio Grande. He went 4-0.
wow.
You want to see one of his games?
Let's go for it.
All right, I'm going to give you one of his games.
Caden said that his opponent said he forgot it. It was 3-time repetition.
All
Caden's
right.
giving us insight. Thanks, Caden. Stukopin. I have heard the name, but I don't know how strong that person is.
Yeah, I don't know too much either. I just heard that he was really good. So let's see. I'm going to invite you to my board here. I've got an analysis board.
Thank you, David. I like being invited.
I like when people invite me to stuff. All right. There we go.
For some reason, I don't see it yet.
It should have just popped up. There are just no moves played yet. Do you see it now? I played e4, c5.
No.
No?
No.
It says you're at my board. You just have to find it among all your boards.
But I closed all my boards.
You closed all of them?
Yeah, except for one.
All right, I'll invite you again.
I'm refreshing stuff. Yeah, please invite me again. Can't get there for some reason.
Can't get there. Sorry.
That's fine. You can show it to the people anyway. I'll be watching from here with 1 minute delay. Don't worry. 30 seconds.
30 seconds delay. Okay. Well, we're just gonna click through this game, people. We're not gonna do an intense analysis. Stukopin is playing black here against Tokras, which is Mathieu Cornet, right?
Yes.
The current French champion. And I've watched some of his games in previous weeks, and he really impressed me so far.
Yeah, he did great chess. He played very well.
Topical line queen f3 in the Taimanov, going to g3 for a queen trade early. Queen f3 to g3. Stukopin avoids the queen trade. We get some weird h-pawn moves added in, and now we're back into the Sicilian. Okay. Yeah, when black completes this knight c4 maneuver, getting the bishop pair, you often answer it by playing e5 quickly. I mean, Tokras hasn't done anything, or Cornet hasn't done anything that, you know, looks unusual or wrong in any way. Oh, and now he goes for something decisive, though. He goes for takes on d6, which you don't especially want to bring out the bishop unless you've got a tactic, which he does. Knight b5, a b5, rook d6. Black just castles. And this position's actually not that good for white. Even though he just won a pawn, he won a pawn on the queen side where his king is. Black castles. The knight on g4 is protected, shutting down kingside play. This is not going to be an impressive position for white, I don't think. But let's see. Rook d4. White gets his rooks into the game. And here he comes with some tactics here. Going for bishop a2. Okay. Yeah, so he was using this queen's hidden attack on the bishop on g1. That's how he kept the rook from covering b4 and opened the a file when he played b4 here. So, queen g1, rook to d1. And then this move. Whoa. Knight e3. That's a nice move. Did you see that move, Dejan? You see it?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Oh my goodness.
After queen g1, rook d1, he played knight e3. Is that the one?
Yeah. Yeah, the rook can't take the queen on g1 because of rook c2 checkmate, but it's even more complicated than that because white can play rook d8 check. And if you take white's rook, then white just takes the queen on g1, right?
Yeah.
And you lose. So on rook d8 check, he simply plays king h7. So if you take his rook on c8, he checkmates on d1. If you take his queen on g1, he checkmates on c2.
Stuck open. Okay, so we need to see more of his games the next time that he plays.
That's bloody. So c3, he takes on d1, queen d3. This is super complicated. f5, and he goes into this position. Now he's got an exchange, but white has 3 passed pawns. And rook d2, he's got a winning tactic here and wins the game. Wow. Okay, that was super, super high quality play. So I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to watch his games live today, but you know, this guy went 4-0, and just like you say, Dejan, we'll have our eyes on him next time he plays.
We won't miss him for sure.
I mean, we know that this Rio Grande team is strong. They beat a good team last week. Now I'm forgetting which one. Who did they beat last week? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. But the Rio Grande team, they should be 4-1 after winning this match, I think. If we click to the standings here, Rio Grande 3-1. So they win this match, they're 4-1 now. And you know, they were 3-1 without Stukopin so far. And now with him in the lineup, I mean, I could imagine that they would be a good match against Khan, but that they would beat them 13-3 is
13-3. Wow.
That's a real warning to the other teams. Like, we're not taking any prisoners here. Yeah, last time I think maybe they beat the Hackers last week. And they had the debut of Kovalyov, the young Canadian talent. So yeah, so they've got Stukopin and Kovalyov to play board 1 for them, in addition to the fact that they play a lineup with, like, you know, IMs on boards 3 and 4, not like a weak lower rated player on board 4. Not necessarily weak, but not like a lower rated player. They have these almost balanced lineups, but Stukopin and Whateveryov seem to be well poised to score a ton of points on board 1 as well. So that's a scary team. Can we see some overall standings? Unfortunately, I don't think that there's an overall standing updated for this week just yet. Greg is saying updated standings are coming shortly. So you guys will just have to find the link yourselves pretty soon. Basically what you're going to want to do is you want to go to chess.com/pro-chess-league, and then you're just going to click on the standings, and it'll be refreshed, and you'll be able to see all the standings pretty soon there. Yeah.
Christian Chirilla also just tweeted the following: very happy with our team's balanced performance to take down the dangerous Budapest Gambit. Let's go, San Jose Hackers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got to be happy. They kind of needed that match win.
Not a happy person here. That's great.
Yeah.
Having more happy people here.
Yeah. Well, we've probably got half not happy people, but those people aren't tweeting right now.
They will.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's our show, Dejan. Anything else you want to say about what we've seen today, or which teams look good to you from the teams that you're not used to seeing?
I haven't seen some of these teams, to be honest with you, but I think the San Jose Hackers are quite a serious team. Also, the team with the Romanian players, which was the Seattle Sluggers, they are also quite a nasty team to play with.
Yeah.
Yes, so you have to watch out, guys, from
these
two.
Yeah, they beat,
of course, the Rio Grande.
And the Rio Grande, yeah.
The Rio Grande.
So this San Diego Surfers team, which is 5-0, looked good again this week. I mean, Dreyev played great, and they've got an FM for board 4, Craig Hilby, who does quite well, scores some points. Doesn't get outclassed completely by the IMs and GMs.
Craig is very talented. He has been on in some of my camps, and he's a very, very dedicated to the game, young player.
Yeah. Well, the West is really tough, Dejan. I think the Pacific Division is pretty strong. It's the one I usually comment, but like if you saw some of the teams, I mean, San Diego, the Desert Rats won today against London.
Yep.
The Sluggers looked good and won against the Desperados. Rio Grande obviously like crushed a top team from another division. So the whole division has a bunch of strong teams. I mean, San Jose, as you said, beat the 3-1 Budapest Gambit. So we got a few scary teams out here.
We're going to watch them in week number 6 and week number 7. We're not going to miss the show. You
Yeah.
guys also don't miss it. Be there and follow it. There'll be more excellent games to come, more
Yeah.
action, and you wouldn't be sorry for that, for
Yeah.
watching it.
So round 6 in just a few days, back to the normal Wednesday time. And Dejan, thank you. It was really fun to do a show with you.
Thank you, David. Always a pleasure.
All
Thank you
right.
guys for watching us. See
Bye,
you next time.
everybody.